webinar today where we speak on the business of sports in India, specifically on the business of Indian football, but also focusing on women's football, as these PIFA Foundation webinars have been doing over the last few weeks. And I welcome you all to this edition today. And I look forward in an interesting discussion with old friends, really, colleagues in the business. And first of all, let me welcome the lady in amidst who's actually been organizing these webinars, Anjali Shah from PIFA Sports. I welcome Sukhvider Singh, who's now Singh Sports Ventures out of Goa, Neel Shah, GISB, the Institute, who's been an ex-colleague of Sukhi, Kishore Taid, who's one of the co-founders of Bhaichung Bhutia football schools, as well as the CEO of the Western India Football Association, Menezes. Thank you all of you for joining in. And starting off, first question to everyone. I hope everyone is safe. How are you keeping in touch with football? Anjali, when I can start with you.
Thank you so much, Arunava, and thank you for taking over my role today. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the other side for a change. Yes, we've been keeping in touch with football right from the beginning of the lockdown by starting the Lockdown Cup. And I've been doing a series of webinars around women's football and trying to connect all the stakeholders. And yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing, and encouraging our players and teammates to keep fit and keep mentally focused during this difficult time.
So, okay, heading over to Goa. I hope the weather is good. The sun is shining. How's the situation with you, and how you're keeping up with football at the moment?
Yeah, so I think everybody is aware. Thankfully, Goa is in a little or maybe a lot better condition as compared to a lot of other places where we definitely get updates. Having said that, the virus is such that it is very, very unprecedented, unpredictable. So I think we are also being super cautious about it. So we definitely are kind of united in making sure that everybody is still is kind of fighting against the virus. With regards to the sports scene, thankfully, some of the infrastructure has kind of opened up, particularly the stadiums where the athletes are kind of going back to training, and hopefully very, very soon, maybe in a month or so, I think we'll see the football teams also kind of going out and at least starting their conditioning and some bit of fitness level of activities. In the meantime, thankfully, because of the easy situation and movement, we have been able to go out to open spaces like beaches. And while obviously a lot of people are still a little cautious about getting 11v11 formats kind of playing, we are innovating and inventing certain formats like foot volley, where again social distancing is kind of maintained. So yeah, we are trying to kind of get back to activities in terms of sports, and also I think this gives a lot of time for a lot of us to kind of go out and try to kind of see how we'll emerge out of it in terms of what we are doing with regards to the development of football businesses for that matter. So lots to think about, lots to do, and in that process we are also trying to be a little bit.
I'll come back to you how it is to be in the situation with, yeah, you're a startup at the moment, and I'll come back to you a little later. Kishore, if I can come to you, where do I catch you? In which part of India are you at the moment?
I am in Gurgaon.
Acha, how's the situation in NCR?
NCR, I think Delhi is quite challenging. Haryana was more or less a little bit, slightly better. But then recently again, the number of cases are increasing. So although, things have started opening up a bit. So that is on the whole coronavirus front. As far as football is concerned, our priority is the children that we work with on a day-to-day basis. And it's been almost 75 days that they have been indoors. And, it's a very difficult moment for the children as well. So what we have been trying to do is keep them engaged. So lots of workouts at home. It has also given us a little bit of time to, work on things that usually gets missed in the usual busy schedule when things are normal. So we have kind of huddled together, lots of coach education going on internally. And yeah, when we continue to work with the kids on a daily basis, actually. So the workouts are continuing even though they can't come to the field, but lots of workouts at home. And
Okay.
of course, technology is, helping quite a lot.
But how is it for a system like BBFS? You've got centers across India, you've got coaches across India, you've got management across India. How are you able to sustain that whole ecosystem?
So the on-field centers are totally off, right? So we had 80 plus centers pre-COVID, and all of them are right now shut. But there was a joke going around on social media saying that, who has been responsible for the digital transformation of your company? Is it the CEO? Is it the CFO? Or is it coronavirus? So the coronavirus actually has helped us to make that transition very quick, and because there's no other option left. And changes that we had foreseen happening in, say, 3 to 5 years time, we see that happening within 30 to 50 days. So technology has been a big help, like Zoom and Google Meets, etc. We are using that extensively. So actually, from morning till evening, we are always on back-to-back calls. So it has actually become easier now.
Sorry for the pun now. Does this explain your beard?
Yes, absolutely. So when life gives you lemons, better make lemonade.
Nice thing. If I go on, Neel Shah joins us. I guess, Neel, you're in Mumbai?
I'm actually not. I'm in
You're
Lenobla.
not?
So I'm
Okay.
just down the road.
Nice.
I ended up, I can't complain at all. I'm
Yeah.
fortunate, but if the internet gets a little shoddy, that's because I'm in Lenobla. But thankfully, we're in a place that has fantastic, for decent bandwidth. My wife and I have been here for the last 2.5 months, so it's been safe and relaxed in a lot of ways. How I've connected with football, I've been very fortunate actually during this time. We've shifted TISC, our Sports Management Institute, online for the last 2.5 months. And, typically when I'm on campus in Kerala, I get to, bring all my network of people in the industry over to talk about the business of sports, but then I'm typically sitting in my cabin and not able to actually learn from these experts in the field. Many of them were on this panel. But this time, we're 2 to 3 hours a day, I'm actually online learning with my students. So we just had somebody from JSW Sports this morning. We had an old friend of yours, Jonathan Rigo, on literally right now. And we have many, many people from all over the world who've been talking about everything from sports strategy to event execution to sports tech and so on. So I've learned a lot of these last 2.5 months along with the students. And I think it's got me even more appreciative of what's going on behind the scenes to actually help football get managed in the way that it does, because you're seeing what best practices, not just in India, but all over the world. So it's been a nice transition onto the digital space.
That's a gain for these kids who are, sorry if I say kids, but for these boys and girls who are in the institute. But how difficult will it be to give them practical experience now?
That was our biggest concern. We're also, as Kishore said, and I'm sure everyone would agree to, we've had to learn how to work online fast. And so one of the things, we were meant to be in England a couple of weeks ago with our students for the Premier League exposure trip. And during that trip, we were going to be presenting a market research study to Chelsea FC in Stamford Bridge, as well as a project to Richard Masters at Premier League. And both of those have been shifted online. And I thought to really take away from the experience, because there's nothing like being in the Premier League offices or Stamford Bridge. But we understood that our students still got an incredible amount of learning by the market research that they did through social media and also through phone calls and everything else, as well as just by presenting online, and the preparation that they did over the few weeks leading up to the presentation with our IoT management was also great. So I understood that, yeah, it's not exactly, but we have to accept what's happening right now and just try to do as best as we can to be effective and engaging in an online space. And I think there's a lot of work that can be done for the industry in this environment as well.
Interesting points, and we'll come back to that conversation. Henry, I hope you're safe and family is good. What's the situation for WIFA in managing a huge state like Maharashtra, which has been quite heavily affected by Corona?
Yeah, actually, I tried to tell Anjali that I moved away from WIFA, but she couldn't really take that. But that's fine. Interestingly, the coronavirus has really put us into a fantastic change, and I think this is the new norm or new normal that's going to happen for a long time, and we have to stay with it. So I was very fortunate because in the first month, on March, one of my building mates expired. He was about 80 years old, but he was terminal COVID. So we were put into quarantine, the entire building, and sealed off. So the awareness of social distancing and things came up very early for us in this stage, and during that time we joined the BJP, Bartan Jadu Pocha in the family. So yes, it gave us a good chance to mingle up with the family, work together, try to manage ourselves at home. But nevertheless, I think all of a sudden, Gujarat was the first state to start off with online movement, and that was very nice of Dinesh Nair of Gujarat, the match commissioner, who actually went on the second day of the lockdown, started off online training programs and mingling with people. So this is fantastic. Where do you get to meet 100 people at the same time, or where do you get to meet 150? I've done webinars with 200, 270 people. So this is a fantastic platform which we are forced to, and I think this is the best networking movement that has happened, and we could really reach out to people, make them understand what the situation is, how it is going to go, how we're going to be prepared, how we're going to move into the post-COVID areas and regions. So yes, on that football front, we had a good amount of meetings with the All India Football Federation and technical committee, understanding the players' psychology and how they are coping up with the entire thing. Very happy that the trainer said that it will take only 2 weeks to bring back the kids because they're monitoring them time and again. So that was fantastic actually to hear. And then moving into these AIFF and SAI technical council, which I have been now moving into, it's very heartening to know how the government is now shaking hands with the federation and moving in tandem to accept that the federation is a technical body and will be helping the entire improvement of football in India. So yes, been on many of the online forums and have been very, very blessed with meeting many people, trying to exchange a lot of ideas and really move into a situation where we can really brainstorm, put ourselves together with a lot of ideas. So I think this platform and this time has brought a good change, and this new normal is going to be for a long time, and we have to, even the World Cup, I think LOC, we had a meeting the last week, and we are planning to have meetings every week and then every fortnight with the government to see that we can rise and shine in the month of March in 2021, so that the Women's World Cup will be a great face to show about in the country. So yes, a lot of work to do there, but at the moment not with WIFA. So it is interesting to see how, but you can ask me any questions you want.
You said yourself you're part of the technical committee and you're a former national team goalkeeper yourself. Just digressing a little bit to the players side before we come back to the business side of things. You've never experienced something like this yourself, but how do you feel the players are coping with this whole situation of having to stay at home, unable to train or with teams? I mean, how difficult do you feel is this, and how difficult are your decisions that you're taking in the technical committee in the interest of Indian football in trying to restart the game at some stage, maybe later this year, or maybe even having to wait till next year?
Yeah, because we have been actually pushed to start and restart, because what has happened around the world, the COVID was attacked much earlier, maybe December, around by the time it came to India, it was a little bit late, but nevertheless, the precautions that India has taken, we could really say it's good or bad, whatever we want to say, but then we have understood that we're too early to start off, and we have to take our caution before we start, because lives are very important. If you're going to live with COVID, we have to understand the precautions till the vaccine is come. No problems if you start off on the ground, because the ministry has already been given the go ahead that you can start off closed door tournaments, closed door matches. Practice sessions have started off on the Olympic individual games. So when it comes to collective, I think the responsibility is on the academies, on the clubs, on the association and federation, that they take proper precautions before they start anything. But that's that. But the non-essential part of it has already started. That means people are coming on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Hangouts or whatever that is. Need to go to everywhere people are out. Really spreading, connecting, and all that, which is one of the best things. Because in the World Cup, under 17 Women's World Cup, also we're talking about how to get. At one time, we were thinking that how to go about with the people. But this forum is so fantastic that if you put up a World Cup program or something of that, I'm sure that will be 500 to 700 people to join in and to understand what we want to do. On the other hand, I think as a player, it's damn frustrating. It's really frustrating to sit at home, to understand that there's nothing to do. We do all the players generally go in with their physical fitness to see how good they are. They have their own places or own equipments to do certain things. But nevertheless, I think the trainers of the national team, I'm talking about national team trainers have been in touch with the players twice in 10 days and trying to monitor them. Each and every player has been spoken to. The trainers, the coaches has been, even the under 17 World Cup team has been very fortunate, because the age group has been kept the same, even though the tournament has been postponed, and that is a fantastic thing. Otherwise, everything that we have done for so many years must have gone for a toss. So basically, it's frustration, how to keep cool, how to understand things, keep your diet right, keep your physical fitness right, understand what is happening, try to bring out the network with people that you know, get in touch with family, get in touch with the outside world. These are all the explanations that have been given to every player so that they are connected. See, people who don't get connected are frustrated. Some point of time, you want to just go out and play. And now with the relaxation a little bit, players have started to jog outside, they've started to walk, cycling, it's on. So yeah, gradually and steadily, I think everybody will be in sync with the COVID-19 precautions and move out with the activities that has to be done. And I think it's a fantastic phase to be mentally tough and mentally strong, because this phase is going to take us to a lifetime learning, you see, because every player is looking out to get out of this situation, but is also mentally prepared that, yes, this is the new norm and we have to go with it and we will achieve of getting out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting, Henry, to hear all of this. And let's return to the business of sports. We've now gone a little off track, but I think that was very important to get it all started and hear how things are happening and how everyone is sort of coping with the situation. Now, when we come to talk about the business of sport, besides, of course, us meeting on and off at football grounds or at functions on other places, conferences were a very important thing also to meet. Is this new connectivity that we suddenly have, not only within India, but globally as well, is this going to help in the long term, the business of sport? Who wants to take this? Sukhi, you want to take that question up?
So there are a couple of perspectives, Arunava. On immediate basis, I think we are looking at a disaster, of course. I mean, there's a bloodbath in the industry. If you look at one of our key projects, and you did mention that last October we set up Singh Sports Ventures with, again, an idea that not necessarily you will have to kind of look at maybe a national event and national landscape every time to kind of build good sporting properties and good businesses out of sports. But we looked at Goa, and then we were able to do a couple of things, including something called as National Inclusion Cup. And again, we have the mandate for sponsorships and marketing for the national games, which were scheduled in October 2020. Just taking two of these examples, we were pretty much on track and kind of doing exactly what was needed to be done. The government of Goa, the industry houses in Goa, they were all excited about both the propositions. And suddenly, in like a span of 1 week, the entire kind of perspective changes. So definitely, when it comes to the stakeholders of the game, they are not able to do anything. When it comes to the stakeholders who are going to finance and support and sustain the game, definitely they are kind of having a little bit of pushback on that front. Plus, the other engagement points in terms of the fans and the communities, definitely we don't have an opportunity to kind of get integrated. So if you look at the immediate scenario, and quite obviously it looks very, very bleak. Having said that, I think Henry put it kind of rightly that this also gives us an opportunity to go back and maybe the existing concept that we have, can we kind of think a little more about it and make them better, make them a lot more relevant. One big learning out of this lockdown phase has been the whole orientation of sports towards the community. The other day again, I realized that while the bigger elite events, definitely they'll kind of create a comeback, and they'll come back and do exactly what they need to be doing, be it the IPL or the ISL. But somewhere or the other, sport like cycling, I've seen so many families out on the road and kind of cycling a lot, because obviously they have an opportunity to do that. I took an example a little earlier about a sport like football, which essentially doesn't require so much of elaborate infrastructure, but there are new innovations and inventions that are going to happen, are happening. So somewhere or the other, I think the existing professionals with existing sporting projects, they definitely are already thinking about how to make it relevant and how to make it kind of better. But beyond that, the sporting fraternity, I believe, is also thinking about new ways of making sports a lot more relevant to the communities, making sports a lot more relevant to fitness and health. And this is the time when I think the communities as well as the other stakeholders are also taking the message very, very seriously. Again, as recent as 5 years back, everybody was definitely talking about how sports need to have the whole element of community, fitness, and all that. I think at that point of time, it seemed like a lot more of lip service rather than actually intent. But today, you have no option. You actually have to make it relevant to the community. You actually have to make sure that you start thinking about the fitness aspect of it a lot more seriously. So many friends, so many families who I knew didn't have the needed affinity to sports, but the same families, the same kids, and same adults are actually getting back to fitness. So I do see, considering the mindset change, considering the shift in culture, there would be newer opportunities that are coming in. But on immediate and direct basis, there's a bloodbath in the market. There definitely aren't any monies available to go out and really create that what you want to create. So people are kind of saving a lot. People are kind of maintaining the liquidity that they need to maintain. And so many, fortunately and unfortunately, we are a startup where obviously we were kind of taking off, and suddenly there's a massive roadblock. But on the other hand, I believe that we didn't have as many liabilities as other bigger companies and other bigger groups had. And again, I keep on talking to them on regular basis. When you are kind of facing a hit of about 50 lakh, 60 lakh rupees, every month, without kind of having any clarity in terms of next 6 to 7 months where the monies are going to come back from. I think similar to all the other industries, sports industry is also in the same boat, and the boat has a hole in at the bottom, and we right now don't know how to fill that hole.
And that hole is very, very big at the moment. I guess that's the biggest problem. If I go on, Kishore, we were speaking a little earlier about the BVFS. You, of course, also have experience in the AIFF. How do you see the whole scenario? I mean, again, if we look at the business of sport, Sukhi said, the ISL will somehow survive, the I-League will somehow survive, but how do you keep that whole ecosystem alive of Indian football? The second division is a big question. It wasn't finished. It has to be finished. Someone needs to move up because Mohun Bagan is moving out from the I-League to the ISL in its merger with ATK. The youth leagues were all cancelled, forcefully cancelled because of this whole COVID-19 situation. The women were a little luckier that the Indian Women's League finished before the COVID situation set in. How is that handled? How can it be handled in this situation?
I think Sukhi put it really well. I echo his thoughts. Basically, it's a very challenging time, and the road to recovery is going to be quite long. The numbers are, increasing at a faster rate now in India. So it's going to be a long road to recovery. So I think the best way to cope is probably to just accept the situation and see what best we can do, given where we are. Um, as far as the young players are concerned, you mentioned the youth leagues and the second division, etc. I think the youth players are also gonna get hit quite a lot, because for them this whole season, say whatever time is lost forever. For them every year counts, every month counts. They have to be fit and they have to be competing at a good level in order to get spotted for their careers. So that is a very so for them it is a big loss. But there are things that are beyond our control. So but at the same time, whenever we kind of believe that whenever there are challenges, there are also the best opportunities. So since the whole world is hooked on to the digital world, I think there was also never a better time to innovate in the technology side. There was never a better time probably to introduce digital products. So we in our team, actually, for the last 60 odd days, we have been totally engrossed in at least trying our best to kind of innovate and see how we can reach out to people who are in need. So the need, there's obviously a need gap, like Sukhi mentioned. People are sitting at their homes, there's no sport, outdoor sport, but people still need to keep fit. And it is in fact more important now than ever before to keep yourself fit. Okay, so we have been trying our best. We have 300, more than 300 people in the team to take care of. So financially it is a very challenging time.
So one question, Kishore, on that front. When you say you've got 300 people to take care of, where there's digitally a lot of things happening,
yeah.
Do you see that digital being able to, that you're able to monetize that, to turn it around, to make revenue so you can keep your system running? Because at the moment, I guess if parents are not willing to shell out the fees for the kids, you don't have other revenues at the moment, because you can't do competitions, other things that that would have earned you revenues as well.
Yeah. So a little bit of innovation that has happened in this front is a lot of live sessions. Not just us, but there are other academies who have been, making use of technology to actually train the kids at their homes through video conferencing. And we have done more than 1,500 sessions over the past 75 days. And we have not yet monetized it. Yeah, I mean, there's a challenge, but yeah, we are trying to do, we will try to start monetizing from next week onwards. Actually, we have a plan, and with fingers are crossed. Let's see how it goes. In addition to that, we have also actually come up with a tech product, which hopefully in a couple of weeks' time we will be introducing in the market. But yeah, monetization, like all tech products, one thing is to build a product, and the other is to have product market fit and be able to monetize it. So yeah, I mean, we can only make our efforts in the best direction we think we can, and just and then we'll have to see how it goes.
All right, Anjali, let me bring you in as well on this, because you've been running an academy for a long time. You've got a men's team, you've got a women's team as well. How difficult is it at the moment to keep the system running? How, with the coaches, with the management, and keep things alive, really? I think that's, I think, the status where it is in Indian football at the moment. Anjali, your sound is off.
Currently,
yeah, sorry.
it is a very difficult phase, and I share everyone's concerns. What everyone has said is absolutely exactly what we are going through. There is no money really coming in. We too are doing a lot of online training sessions for our teams. However, we haven't monetized them because most parents have shared the concern that they are not in a position to be able to pay for it at this point, and we shouldn't be charging them. As far as the team is concerned, we're
just one question on that front is,
yeah.
You're saying that parents are unwilling to pay for it because they say they also have financial problems. but are general fees that you would have charged for the kids, they are off at the moment?
Absolutely off.
Kishore as well, are the fees off at the moment? They're not being...
Absolutely. Fees are off, and even the online sessions, live sessions that we are conducting, those have been complimentary so far. We are still trying to develop the product.
Okay, so Anjali, coming back, and that is the question of monetization, right? Because the parents are everyone is in a difficult situation because of COVID-19. The parents are unable to pay, but you are in a situation, or Kishore is in a situation, everyone who has a business, even Sukhi with sports ventures, you have got staff, you've got people. How are you going to be taking care of that?
So we have been taking care of them for the whole month of April, the whole month of May, and we also plan to look after them for possibly till the end of June. But clearly, after June, we will really have to think of ways of how to bring in some money in to consistently keep paying our staff and keep them on board. We too are looking at some sort of online chargeable model, but clearly it will be looking at completely new people, because the kids who are already in, like I said, are happy with the complimentary sessions as of now. And coming to the teams, we're trying our best to keep the teams mentally happy, physically happy, by providing them a lot of football resources, training resources, stamina, fitness, nutrition information, everything. But honestly, the focus of the players from the community has more been on survival than anything else. So we actually had to run a food drive. We called it Feed My Mumbai food drive that we did for the Kolaba community for almost a month and a half. And I think doing that gained us a lot of brownie points, because I think the team was really happy to know that at a difficult time we were there for them.
Okay, that's important. Neel, coming to you, someone who's been also in the industry, you've had different roles over the years, and now of course you have your institute. After finishing the course, the graduates will want to be placed in the industry. How difficult is that going to be, with given the scenario of that the sports business is rather cutting down than rather bringing in new people?
Yeah, it's definitely something that had caused some sleepless nights, especially when it realized that this is going to last a lot longer than we originally had thought. What we're doing is innovating right now, and we're innovating with the industry. I think one of the benefits and unique points of differentiation that GIFB has, that many institutes in India and abroad, is we are the industry. So IoT, the parent company, is working day to day on running La Liga football schools or NBA basketball schools, or our relationship with MLB, or what we're doing at the Polo Tire in Manchester United. So we have our finger on the pulse of what the industry wants. Plus, everyone who's a faculty is also industry. So it doesn't mean that work is going to stop. It just means that work is going to be diverted into a different way. So now this is the time to do market research when maybe you weren't doing it before. This is the time to come think more about your graphics and your content creation and design. This is the time to actually just look at who's going to be hardworking and sorry, this is a better word, but cheap and inexpensive resources that we can bring on. So I've been trying to work with my students to help them not just be a jack of all trades, but actually become very strong at certain things. So whether it's graphic design or video editing or market research, or if it's just writing or whatever it might be, and trying to meet the needs of the industry over the next few months and next maybe even year or two, so we can come up with short and long-term projects. Because if I was to sit with each person here, Henry or Anjali or even you, Arnava, or Sukhi or Kishore, each person's organization still needs something, right? Either it's revenue, it's outreach, it's market research, it's something. And you're not going to have a lot of budget to pay for expensive resources to do that. So our students are great because they're in a position where they've learned a lot They're hungry as anything. They're eager. They've all been living at their mom and dad's house for a little while after living in Mumbai for a bit in the dorms or the flats. So they just want to get out there and do something. And they've got used to the idea that they might be, by getting out there, still might be on Zoom for a little while. So I'm not as concerned as I was originally, because I understand that this is actually, it is an opportunity for our batch of 33 to go out and just get their foot in the door. And look, we've all gone, especially Henry, who's started much earlier than we did. We know what kind of character building happens when you have strife, when you have challenges. I think all of us who are in our 40s and 50s, who've been or in late 30s, 40s, 50s, we all got into sports in India. For me, soccer in America. And it's a time where it wasn't very easy. It was a time when there's a lot of challenges. And because we are able to survive, and not just survive, but be effective during that period, I think it's what's made us so successful now. I think who Henry is today is a product of all of the challenges he went through when he was younger, and he's been able to do the great things. So I think our students will never forget 2020, 2021. They've still been able to become those diamonds in the rough. And when 2025 or 2030, when they're sitting on these panels, they're going to be telling the stories about this period when they made it through. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'm trying to put on a very nice cover over a very challenging time, but this is the way that we can only stay positive during this period.
Very interesting points. And Henry, I come directly straight to you. You've seen Indian football over the last 4 or 5 decades. I don't want to make you older than you are, but if you see where Indian football has come from, where there was, when you used to play in Mumbai yourself with the national team, you've seen the rise of the National Football League. You've seen overseen, when Mahindra United. I remember visiting you in Mumbai in the 2000s when you were at the top of the leagues, best players in India under Derek Pereira and everything. Moved on to the federation. Where do you see the whole business of football? I remember we interacted when I was at Mumbai City, that the whole ecosystem that we have today, and I think there's a lot of pioneers in this discussion, in this chat today. In how do you see all this whole COVID impacting? We're talking about the players angle a little more earlier, but now if you look at the business angle and the development of Indian football, where do you see it?
Well, I think Indian football has evolved quite a bit from the time that we were playing, and it has reached a height of professionalism, and which is very important to understand, because our time we didn't have so many matches, so much exposure, so much opportunity. Though at the domestic level, we used to play too much football. Once you start your football in Mumbai, finish your Harwood League, then you move on to Calicut to play the Setnakji, and then you move on to another tournament, then you move on to the East and Northeast. So we used to play around 70, 75 matches, and then the All India Football Federation came up with the idea that, boss, you cannot play so many matches. We are going to give you 45 match passes. So we used to have those passes, and our team used to juggle players, to give the passes and say that, okay, we will stick to 52 or 45 matches. And that was the era when we used to play so many matches. And today we are struggling to play so many matches. But the game has evolved. The quality of players have come out very well. The game has changed by itself. And today, if you look at, there's a lot of emphasis on fitness. There's a lot of emphasis on the speed, on the technique of things. And you have the ISL put up at the right time, though it is conflicting, or we can talk about it till the cows go home. But today it is that the ISL is going to be the top league of the country, and I-League is going to be second to it. And then you've got the first division, and very soon a third division is going to come up for all the clubs in India, which is very, very interesting that they are spreading out the entire game. But when you talk about COVID and things like that, a sudden break has come to the system, to the economy, and everybody is thinking of bankruptcy. Forget about running your game or running your organization. They're talking about where's the money going to come on, how many people are going to lose their jobs, and what's going to happen. Though we who run diploma in football education or a degree course and all, we know that the resources are very much required for the scenario, because more and more teams are coming up, more and more academies are coming up. There are more opportunities to really get back into the system. So there's no dearth about resources. That resources, how much ever you make, that will be consumed by the sports industry. And I'm sure about that. The children are not to worry about it, that they have the opportunity there to learn. You learn it. COVID is giving you a great bit of challenge, which is another experience, because tomorrow, if we ask what did you do in COVID, and this is what I did, I thought differently. I thought to move into a different angle, but COVID has put a break to everybody. And today we're looking at Germany, South Korea, who has opened up their stadiums for football matches, which is very heartening, at the same time very scary. And the last match we saw them operate with the sound system, where whenever there was an attack, there was a good amount of fan applause and all those things. So there is a lot of experiment going on. Like I heard, whether it is Kishore or Neel or Anjali saying that we have given everything free right now. Right now is the time to support the people, try to get them together, keep them together. And then once the new normal is accepted by everybody, I think that's the time we can open up our economy and say that, boss, it is time that now you have to, this is the money that we invested during the COVID time, and this is the time that you will have to pay now for every little thing that we do. It's professional. I think no parent can say that you don't teach my kid character building, or how to be disciplined, or how to bring out an attitude. Parents will always pay for that, because that's what sports teaches you. So there's no doubt. I think this is the temporary phase of really understanding the situation, getting into your reins of keeping people together, excited, keeping them connected, keeping them together is very important. Making them mentally strong is today's mantra. Forget about everything. We want to make your kids stronger. We want to keep them in the right spirit. We want to keep them connected. This is all what is required, whether it is a national team or a small kid at the age of 4 or 6. It is a huge mental trauma that we are going through right now. And as sportsmen, it's a bigger one. So I think it's good that companies or organizations like Anjali or Kishore, Taid's Bhaichung, Bhutia Football Academy, everybody is working towards how to come back into the game. And I feel that once we accept the new norms, we accept the precautions, we are going to bounce back stronger. I know it's going to be a slow growth, it's going to take time, but we have to live with it and we have to come back to it. So yes, what you said is absolutely right, is that the game has evolved in a particular time. Only when we were talking about a rise in Indian football, a small bit of culture starting in the Northeast or in Kerala with the seven-a-side, or in Kolkata or in other places, as now that the ISL wants to grow in different parts, everything has come to a standstill, and a big question mark has come that what to do next. It's unpredictable when nobody knows what's going to happen next. So we have to keep our fingers crossed, be positive, and say that, okay, once we accept this new norm, we're going to come back stronger.
All right. Very interesting points there raised from Henry. But again, I was talking to Anjali, where the situation is, how long can she and Nirvan sustain the system? Kishore, the same question to you, BBFS. How long can you sustain the system if this extended period of lockdowns continue, and with football, especially for the kids, unlikely to return anytime soon?
It's a very good question, Arunava, because it is a very difficult position, and at some point I think we will have to look at our district and state associations, or probably the Ministry of Sport, to actually intervene and see if there's anything that can be done collectively for academies and teams, and if they can bail out clubs that are actually on the verge of shutting down.
Kishore?
For us, we can probably sustain for a couple of months more at max if we stretch ourselves. So our strategy is to, try and generate revenues in the meantime. So we have 2 months. So in these 2 months, we have to generate enough revenue so that we can increase this runway by, say, another month, and and so on, one step at a time.
Okay, that's an interesting scenario to look at. Neel, if I can come back to you, you someone who's worked in the industry, as I said, in different positions. You've seen different sides yourself. Now on the educational side, how do you see that? I mean, you've done work with Libero, you've been with DSK, India on track in the background. How difficult is the market scenario really, and the uncertainty around the market as well?
Oh, it's completely challenging. It's not just challenging. For many, it's a dire situation, and it's to hear friends like Anjali and Kishore talk about just a few more months. I remember when BBFS was founded, I met Anjali and Nirvan very, very early in my time in India in 2009 when I moved here, and they also have these very landmark and pioneering efforts of what they've created, and to even think that they might not be at the exact same level because of something that's completely out of their control is sad from a business side, but also sad, it's emotionally just hard to accept as well. And this is what's happening all over the world right now. So those are things that I think we need to just sit with and grieve in our own way. And then once we can get through the 5 stages of grief and get to that acceptance period, that's the most important. And one of the first parts on the business side is just being okay to move the target, or being okay to let people go when you have to, and it's in the best interest of them to find something else, because that you're not going to be able to afford them at some point, and these are the tough decisions. So what I would say is that everyone, from somebody who has a one-person company to somebody who's running a league like ISL or Bundesliga or Premier League or MLS or NFL or NBA, everyone has different challenges right now. And this is the time that as soon as you can go through the 5 stages of grief and get to acceptance, the better. Because when you're in a space of acceptance, you can start to, with a lot of consciousness and awareness, start changing things. I think a lot of our challenges as human beings is we get very attached to our targets. We get very attached to what we thought 2020 is going to look like, what we thought our 5-year plan is supposed to be. And once it's set, we don't want to move too much. But once we kind of accept it and we can move it, yes, there will be some sacrifices of human resources, of maybe finances, of our own personal finances and our lifestyle for a little bit of time, that we won't get that salary that we had coming in. But survival and the opportunity to do what we all get to do is work in professional sports is a blessing. I still feel like it's a bonus in my lifetime. I didn't think I'd ever get to do what I get to do. So I've accepted it. And I'm moving. I'm speaking also from a very different place, not just in Lenovo, but I'm speaking from education. Education is the time where even during depression periods or recession, education is where everyone usually turns to, because you need to kind of ride it out for a while until it gets better. And it's a very safe and encouraging and kind of empowering space to be in an educational platform for 12 to 24 months. While the economy starts to settle itself. So I'm speaking from a place of a little bit of more confidence, I'd say. Anybody who's running training programs, which is India on Track, has one huge vertical of training programs, and we have a number of employees around the country, and Vivek Setia and Gaurav Madhuwal and many others who are behind it have to think about this on a day-to-day basis. And I've been in their world for a little bit of time, and it's like I can't even say that I can understand exactly what Anjali and Kishore is going through, because I'm only tasting a little bit of it. But I know it's tough, and I think that my only recommendation to everyone is, as I said earlier, is try to get to the acceptance period as fast as we can. Otherwise, we're not going to make the best decisions for ourselves, for our business, and for the people that count on us.
Very wise word, Neel. It is, these are trying times, and I think trying to find solutions which work for everyone, I think, is the key. And I think riding the tide as well. I think that's especially when I hear what Anjali said and what Kishore said. I think projects which have been around and brought success not only locally but at the state, at the national and international level as well. Because losing such projects will be a loss to Indian football, and replacing them will be very, very difficult. Sukhi, if I can come back to you on we were talking about the situation regarding startup, and you have a startup. You are a veteran in the industry as well. We know each other for many, many years, and you were talking a little bit about it. How do you see the scene, especially in Goa, when it comes to the business of football? Because Goa has always been a little different in its approach. I remember the days when you were at FC Goa. Vedanta has been doing great with the Sesa Football Academy, with the Vedanta Women's League and other things. How do you see the future panning out potentially in Goa for the business of football, where on the other side, large corporates like Dempo and Salgaoka thought it wasn't worth investing anymore in the I League, and Dempo's especially having focused on its academy over the last 2 years.
So Aruna, before jumping into that conversation, I think there's a small little bridge I want to create. Obviously, hearing
Sure.
all the thoughts that are coming in, especially from Henry and Neel, I think the feelings are the same. When again, I personally decided to kind of move into football as a profession. I think 20 years back, it also was a challenge, by the way. So I mean, and then you do that.
Sorry to break you there. Wasn't it a gamble rather in those days, that you gambled on it and hoped that you could sustain yourself in working in professional football?
Absolutely, I think it was a big gamble in that sense, because at that time the evolution of football, nobody knew what is going to happen to it next 20 years or so, and also I think the opportunities available. So mind you, Anuva, at that time, it wasn't about the opportunities that you were trying to prepare yourselves to kind of go out and take. You are creating opportunities for yourselves. You are creating opportunities for others in that particular industry. I think and Neel is absolutely right. I think it's all about phases of learning. Yeah, I mean, the current situation definitely very unprecedented. But what has happened is it has really led a lot of us, and I can speak for me, in terms to kind of do a lot more introspection. And there are 3 levels of introspection that I kind of went through. One is the personal side of it. Definitely you start kind of thinking about your own well-being, your physical well-being, because ultimately we are talking about health. This is the time when people were kind of going to bed, looking up at the ceiling, and realizing, boss, that health is a lot more important than other things in life. So that's where the personal well-being and the family's well-being kind of gained that bit of importance. And I think it's a great level of introspection that everybody went through. And I'm just talking about myself. Second is the professional side of it. Definitely a challenge. But having said that, I think Anjali and Kishore are having their own challenges. Neel obviously kind of put it in right sense. And I'm sure Henry, 2 years later, will look back at this situation and say that we overcame this challenge also. So I'm very sure that's going to happen to us. But we are also innovating, inventing, and there are a lot of inspirations out there in the industry. Nobody imagined that aviation industry will open up, and that this soon. I mean, back in Goa, we essentially were talking about getting in tourists only in November, December. But now it looks like the flights coming in. There'll be a lot of movement domestically as well as internationally. So can we learn a lot from the other industries in terms of how they are coping up, and bring those kind of learnings to football industry? I think it's going to be a big professional challenge, and I think professionally will become a lot better. And particularly for the entrepreneurs like me, again, when we decided to kind of go out and launch a startup, it definitely was more of a challenge that we kind of went for. But also, Arunava, we were also preparing ourselves. For me, this startup is not about next 2 years and trying to figure out if it works or not. It was about next 20 years. On the back of last 20 years of work experience, professional experience, and exposure, it was about building something that would last next 20 years. So I think next 2 years is not going to kind of really dampen the spirits of what we are trying to kind of create. Having said that, how do we innovate? How do we kind of go out and make ourselves a lot more relevant? As a startup, with the kind of space that we are in, I see opportunities. It might have a longer gestation period. It might take about a year or two to kind of convince people, but we are going to get them onto the.
Okay, I think we just lost Sukhi there. Sukhi, are you still there? I think we lost him. We'll
I don't know. I think I just dropped
sorry.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, you dropped out. Just can you restart? I think we'll miss the last 2 sentences of yours.
Yeah. So I think for us also, we are definitely kind of trying to kind of become a little more professionally relevant, and also identify certain opportunities that are going to come by and be ready for it, the way it happened like 20 years back. So and I think the intensity of us believing that sports definitely is a game changer for the communities, for individuals, is going to get reinforced. And the same belief, if we can translate and transfer onto the industry, I think we'll find the monies that essentially can come back into the industry. Definitely, there are times where you have to prepare, be ready for the monsoons, where you have to be ready for the rainy day. So I think as an entrepreneur, we are getting a lot more rationalized in terms of our expenditure, our savings, managing the liquidity. So I think those are the business compulsions that obviously you will have to go through. And the last part of it, I do believe, and having experienced something very, very similar. So um, I might be kind of kind of sounding a lot more ambitious, but I think this is a massive opportunity for the spirit of sports to be highlighted as something which is very, very important for humanity as well as citizens of the country. This is where I think the conversation is coming back to what as communities you should be doing to kind of become better, what as individuals, what as kids you should be doing to kind of become better and better. I think sports is something that we all believe can create those changes and bring about changes. I think we'll have to format certain models, we'll have to format certain business propositions, which essentially could be sold out in the industry. So this is where I think we will have to dig a lot deeper, go out and bring out the essence of sports in real sense, and go out and try to kind of create packages that could be monetized. And this again goes to a simple example, Arunava, where yeah, while obviously you go out to the industry, sporting industry, and talk about what you could do, but last 15 days I've actually spoken to two corporates, and this corporate essentially is talking about sales. This corporate is talking about marketing and testing times in the COVID situation. But we had couple of sessions which were all about what are the inspirations that you can learn from sports and create positivity using the passion that you have. Everybody doesn't have football as a passion, but everybody has something else that they kind of love, that they kind of cherish. But utilizing the virtues of the passion that we have, and plus the learning from the sports industry, how do we kind of go out and create a positive passion and positivity within the other industry, is something that was very, very enlightening for me. So when we spoke to the corporate, and we did realize that people are looking up at sports as something that can bring inspiration, as something that can bring in learning. And it's now on to us, the entrepreneurs as well as the business professionals, to go out and create those relevance and put a value on top of it. And I think it might take time, maybe a year or two. We'll have to get a lot better personally. We'll have to get a lot better from a business perspective. But I do believe is a massive opportunity for us to portray sports as something which is a lot more important, far more important, as compared to what it was pre-COVID situation.
All right, very interesting. Just one question, because I asked it Anjali and Kishore as well, is you're a startup. What is your financial situation, if you can speak about it? Would you say you are in that similar situation, or do you have a little bit more time?
Okay, it's definitely not a desirable situation. It has put in our business projections completely haywire. Having said that, when you become an entrepreneur, it is a personal journey, a social journey, and a spiritual journey. At all these fronts, we actually had to go back, look at ourselves. And trust me, the way we were living pre-COVID situation, we have definitely rationalized our style of living and the way of living. And it's on all fronts. The way we consume, the way we spend, or whatever it might be. Business-wise, I think I'm learning new skills. Earlier, the whole plan of kind of going out recruiting 4 people to head 4 different divisions that we have, I am doing 3 of the jobs, and my wife is doing 1 job, which essentially is something that we kind of learned. The skills that were required, we learned. So we did that. And spiritually, as I said, somewhere or the other, we do believe that it now becomes a lot more important for us to go out and make sports a lot more relevant to the industry, to the society, to the communities. And if we get it done, that would be a good business proposition. From a timeline perspective, Arunava, we are giving ourselves 1 year to make sure that we utilize all the liquidity that we have. Thankfully, Arnava, we didn't acquire a lot of liabilities, unlike what Anjali or what Kishore might be kind of going through, because we just kind of had taken off. Having said that, the business projections are being kind of rationalized. We definitely are digging a little deep into our reserves and being a lot more patient in terms of our next steps. So that's where it is. I mean, along with Bartan Jhadu Pocha, we are also kind of learning skills on digital marketing. We are learning PR skills and media management on our own. And I think that's a very enriching process as well.
Okay, so Sukhi is learning a lot of new things. Good to hear that. Going back generally, and I open that question to all my panelists, and if you raise your hand, then I can get you in as the first person. Is again, when we talk about the business of football, and we've not been having this discussion since yesterday. All of us have been having this discussion either even together or separately in different kinds of forums over the last 15, 20 years even. And this situation, as we all understand, is very unique, because no one amongst us has gone through such a kind of situation. Luckily, we've not been living in a war zone or something else which is worse than this. But the question is, when it comes back to football, and just to make that point, and I was telling some of you earlier, and I've made that point also on the webinar a few days ago as well, is if I look at the situation here in Germany at the moment, it's a very bizarre situation, that relationship between sports, or especially the game of football, and the people seems to be, that connect seems to be lost a little bit, because it's only just talk about commercialization. Is that a danger? Indian football is also in that phase where, that we've lost a little bit of that romanticism, which most probably we would have talked about, Henry, we would have talked about, or Anjali, or Sukhi, or Neel, or even Kishore, we would have talked about 10, 15 years ago. It's also now a business, as a hardcore business as well. Is that something where there is a danger if also India is forced to do closed door matches, not allowing grassroots football, youth football, amateur football to take place, but say, hey, the ISL, to some extent, maybe the I-League has to play? Is that the connect between fans, well-wishers of the game, sponsors, and us who are hardcore into this industry? Is that a danger? Who wants to take that question first? Raise your hand, please. No one's raising their hand? Anjali does. Thank you. Anjali, you just saved me.
Okay. So, I don't think the passion for the game is ever going to go, because at least from our individual capacity, I think what is needed in these times is actually to shift your focus to who you are dealing with. So what I have realized in the last 1.5 months, and talking to a lot of people through my webinars, is I think we could shift our focus from our cost centers to actually getting onto some sort of an advocacy platform, or a platform where we can actually use all the knowledge and information we have to help out smaller firms to sustain. See, the thing is, today, for someone like me, my biggest cost center is my team and all my teams. Okay. But having said that, we will try and see ways of keeping those teams afloat if we can. Or the focus is going to basically go on to development of the grassroots and sharing all the knowledge that we already have, enabling other smaller enterprise to actually be able to manage continuing their training without bringing on the burden of like a professional team.
Okay. Neel, you want to continue?
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Neel.
Please.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so just a quick one on this. I mean, I like what Anjali said, and even just how you prompted the question, Arnava, also makes a lot of sense. And I look at it from, when I came to this country in 2009, Indian football was definitely still in that amateurish, but definitely, moving towards professionalism. And then all of a sudden, 2011 with the IMG Reliance partnership, and then in 2014 when the ISL kicked off, everything just sped up. And from 2014 to 2020, I think all of us, different parts of the ecosystem, we all were looking at football much more as a business, and definitely looking at our neighbors in Europe, like you and people in Germany and England and others, who are looking at all the different models and looking at all the different business opportunities and trying to organize ourselves to get there. And to Anjali's point as well, I don't think the spirit of football and the spirit of sport has gone at all. And wherever I am, whether I'm playing in this park over here in Manavla, or I'm, just talking about the game with my friends in India, spirit is there. We love the game. And my students remind me that every time we get in a debate about anything about football. But what's happened now is that thought process, right, the business side, you have to move into the business phase at some point if you want it to expand. So I think our minds were already in the evolved business, but our reality is very different. So I think India is in this very interesting place right now, because we were looking at our 5-year plan, but our current reality is pretty challenging for anybody who owns a business that's fully connected to football. So I think this is a period where we need to do two things. One is, it's all connected to the same. You need to consolidate, because a lot of what's happened in Indian sports, from what I've seen, is a lot of clubs have come and gone, including the one I was a CEO of. A lot of leagues have come and gone in other sports. A lot of properties have come and gone. A lot of plans have gotten 10% of what it was supposed to be. And that's because of kind of just misprojection in a lot of ways, and just expecting you're going to throw a lot of money in, and then something's going to happen, but realizing very quickly. And this is a non-COVID time. This is a time when the economy was thriving at times. So I think this is a period where it sounds, I don't know, capitalistic, but I think it's more realistic. You consolidate. Let go of what you don't have. Let go of a lot of things that you don't need. Readjust your plans. And then when football comes back in full steam at some point, from the ISL and AIFF I-Leagues all the way down to grassroots programs, it's going to be run with a much more sustainable and focused approach to growth. So we can kind of get our minds out of us getting rich off of football, or even living in some fancy flats, and we can go back to what we got into in the first place, which was to give back to the game that has given so much to us. And that's going to be done in a sustainable manner. So I come from the US, where everything's about growth, but it's all about sustainable growth. So even when times are great in the US, we still think sustainably, typically, not everyone, but at least the mentors that I've had. So here, even at IoT and GISB, we're just looking at this as an opportunity to consolidate and become far more intelligent about how we spend every single rupee. We were before, but we're much, much better now because we're forced to. So I think, as Kishore is saying, COVID-19 has been one of our biggest reasons for digital transformation, but it's also been one of our biggest reasons for being financially conservative and also financially intelligent as well, and managing our resources in a probably in a better way than we ever were. So I just want to leave it at that, thing that I think the spirit will never die for football in India, because this country loves the game, and it's only going to get better, because now it's been deprived of us a little bit. That hunger is getting stronger. But business-wise, I think we've been a little bit flawed across all aspects of the ecosystem, and I think we could be a lot smarter about how we run our football businesses. And this is a good time to really think hard about what that's going to look like and how it's going to be when we get out of this.
All right, Kishore. Or so you just want to add a point between that?
Before we go to Kishore, just wanted to kind of extend and I think this is pretty much a sentiment I'm sure everybody would have, at least the 5-6 people on board. I think we got into football not really seeking business, which is something that we need to kind of understand. Now business followed our passion, and passion was pretty much at the core of it. So somewhere or the other, I think this is a great time. Maybe this baptism by fire, or maybe it's a pretty much a phase of cleansing this industry as such, whereby I mean, again, without kind of blaming any constituency or any individual, I'm saying there are a lot of people just getting onto the bandwagon just because they see business in it, and this is where maybe certain elements of football or the passion or pretty much what's good for the game get kind of compromised. and the sustainability factor definitely needs to be in mind. Here is a time when everybody knows that next 2 years there's no possibility of major business, there's no possibility of major monies, and people who really are there genuinely, I think will stick to the sport and find a way to make it work. And this is essentially where I think there would be a small bit of catharsis that will happen for the industry, where I think people who definitely are there for the right reasons and wanting to make do a business, but with that eye to see maybe India grow, India succeed, or the football in itself kind of become a lot larger than what it is. I think we'll stay and keep on kind of finding ways to make business. So I'm actually excited about this phase, whereby if we believe as a startup, if we believe as a company, we have very strong ethos and foundation, I think we will survive. Beyond the 2 years of struggle, we will exist for 20 years.
Interesting points. Okay, just to add to it before I go to you, Kishore, I think the passion element is the key, but that needs to be combined. Now will be the interesting phase of combining passion with knowledge and with a certain business acumen to ride this tide, to ride this wave, and then be there when the next phase of growth, and that next phase of growth will come for Indian football, that one is there and ready to really ride that wave and be part of the next growth story. Kishore.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. When we talk about the football business, sometimes or more often than not, we tend to, look at the top level, like the international players or say the ISL, the I League, etc. But even in non-COVID times, top level football, revenues were still not there. They were still not making as much money as they were, spending. So, I've always believed that there are a huge amount of opportunities if we look a bit laterally. Sukhi touched upon it as well, that football is a great game, right? So football is probably the most holistic and most complete game that there is, and that is why it is the most popular sport as well. So there are a lot of overlaps with other mainstream industries. There is a huge overlap with education. There is with mainstream education, and there is also a big overlap with health and fitness, right? So if we can innovate, which for which this is probably the best time, like all of us have been saying that it's a great time to reflect and see where we are. So it's a great time to innovate as well. So if you can innovate and try and use technology to kind of take advantage of these overlaps or of these overlapping industries and and try and create opportunities, I think there are huge possibilities. And it is time probably for us. I mean, if you look at say mainstream media, it is always about a debate around ISL, I League, etc. But I think it is time now that we move ahead from there and try and get football into the mainstream, try and take advantage of these overlaps and create products and solutions so that we can expand the horizons of the football industry itself. So yeah, so that is what I just thought I'll chip in with.
Very, very valid point. And Kishore, I'll ask you an additional question is that we've seen a massive growth. Anjali can second that as well. A massive growth in youth football, structured youth football in the last 2-3 years, with the AIFF putting an emphasis on the youth leagues. Will this crisis be a dampener for that growth and forcing a lot of these smaller projects? I mean, BBFS or PIFA, bigger projects and long-term projects. You see that smaller ones who've been struggling anyway to keep themselves afloat and passing those academy accreditations of the AIFF to be part of the system, that they might be just falling off, that these opportunities for kids might also be lost?
I think it will, I mean, the pressure will be there only in the short term, because finally coronavirus will be defeated, because the virus cannot strategize like humans, right? So humans can come up with, vaccines, and we will come up with vaccines. It might take 6 months, 12 months, it might get a bit delayed, but finally it is going to come. So humans are definitely going to win over the virus. So the pain is only temporary. The second point, related point I would want to make here is that startups never die. Startups never fail. Startups only fail when they give up, when the founders give up, right? So like Sukhi said, all of us here on the panel today, we are here for so many years, and it was more out of passion. It was, and as long as that passion doesn't die, the startups will live on. So I'm that in that sense, in the long run, I'm like 100%, more than 100% sure that we will be back with a vengeance. It is only it is just the wait for the vaccine. That's all.
Okay, that's hopefully that wait will be shorter than longer. But that's the thing, Henry. If I come to you, I said you're a veteran of having seen all of this, and if we come back to this thing about, you've seen the days, you were talking a little earlier about the days when you used to you were forced to travel, literally play nearly every day. All of that thing has changed with structure, with leagues, with home and away systems, at least at the top level. And given these problems of now, of these times, and do you think that growth that Indian football has been going through, despite all the problems and it has faced or still faces, that will continue, that is there, that the passion factor will help, and that this feel that in these trying times, the priority of sports will grow?
Well, if you look at the population of India, you can say that 50% of the population are below 25. And if you look at the population again, for 65% of people below 35. It's a very young, youthful population, and this population wants fitness, sports, and entertainment. These are the three big things that they want. And exactly what everyone on the panel was saying is that it's a youthful country, and we would always want to not look at the ceiling and sit down. We want to get out and do some activity, like Sukhi also mentioned very well, and Kishore and Neel and Anjali also mentioned that how this temporary phase has to be taken care of, how we engage with the youth. We know that the elite will continue whatsoever, because it's a commercial business. It's a guarantee or a contract that you have made, and the government is allowing you to do certain activities on the elite level that will continue. But at the youth, it's a big challenge, because they are the most enthusiastic personalities in the entire sporting event, that the youth want to get out and play. We have to devise and design certain things, because if you look at grassroots, we never talk about teamwork and all. We talk about individual training, individual being. You need the skill to get up on it. So I think, like Kishore said, that we are going to come out with some devices, we are going to come out with some apps or some technique in such a way that we are going to engage kids at home only. You can drag the ball, pull the ball, do individual exercises on your balcony or on your corridor, or go down and do something of that sort. I think the important part is to engage the youth and the grassroots people, because this is okay. The youth and the grassroots, they can really work out in their corridor, in the house, and whatever it is. But look at the coaches, the number of coaches that we have made. They must be frustrated, because they can't do anything other than going on the ground. So today they are getting engaged on a Zoom call or a webinar or on certain things. They are the most affected species in the entire sporting world. And I feel that passion is always going to be the number one in any sporting venture. And like I've seen Sukhi or Kishore or Neel or Anjali, they are passionate. Whether it is making money or not making money, they will go to the ground. They will try to reach out to people. That is, we're going to shut down on people who are artificially, clinged on to this business of sports. That is going to happen. And we will actually know the genuine people coming in. And this monitoring of genuine people has to be done by the federation or the state association or the government, which is very important, because we don't want people to just come in and then let go our children at the drop of a hat because of a COVID situation, which is just temporary. Like all of us think that virus is going to come out October, and November. People are very confident that everything is going to go about. Relaxations have taken place in lockdown period in red areas, in orange areas, in green areas. So now people are aware about the precautions. They would take the precautions and they would come out. Where are they going to stay there? We are talking about deaths happening in other cases which are much bigger than what COVID is doing. But at the same time, because we don't have the guarantee of the vaccine, That's why we are a little bit laid back. It's saying that, okay, let's wait for some more time. Let the relaxations come in. We will know the protocol, what to follow, and then move into the situation of getting into action. But yes, passion is going to be bigger than anything else, any other business in the world. I think so. But coming to your point once again, is saying that the entire sporting scene is on a freeze. Everybody is waiting to get onto the thinking cap, come out of the box to think differently. But yes, right now we have to be patient enough. We want to engage people. We want to look at their mental health. And that's most important today. It's not that just getting on the floor. I think mental toughness is very important. Some programs can come in. I think there's going to be a huge amount of, because there were people who were speaking free of cost for the first 2-3 months. But now people have started engaging people with 500 rupees registration, 300 rupees registration. They're looking forward to have it. You know, there are 50 people who are engaged into a program, and 50 into 300 or 500 is a good amount of money that you start up for sustainability. And I think what Sukhi says, that we are not going to die out here. We are going to live through this. We're going to learn through this. We are going to move through this. And I think this challenge is going to make us stronger. And that's exactly what everybody is saying. And I'm sure that we will bounce back, but only it's the time. It's time. We have to give it time. Till that time, please engage with people. Please engage with their mental health. Please engage with keeping them bright and happy to move into the next stage.
Very important words again from Henry. And before I open up a little bit, we've been talking for nearly 1.5 hours, nearly 90 minutes, like a football game. If people have questions, please raise your hand, and then Anjali, you'll get them to ask the question. Is that okay?
You can, I can unmute them. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do that. But before I get to that stage, one round of questions, because Anjali, you've been doing these webinars, of course, linking them to women's football in India. And we've been talking very generic about football and the men's game, the youth game, and coming to the women's game. And Sukhi, you and I were having a little earlier that discussion in your time at Vedanta, and looking at Goa. Goa was at the forefront of women's football, but then sort of the East, the Northeast took over. Has a very settled structure for the men's game with Pro League, First Division, Second Division, and that widespread Third Division across the talukas. What was your experience of that, of women's football in Goa?
So, yeah. So before I answer, on the screen I see Mr. Rajpal Singh, ex-Fiki. So it's good to see, and obviously I see the screen full of a lot of people who've shown interest in this session. So thank you all of you for kind of logging in. Anurag, to your question, as I said, in 70s when Goa was the champions of India, and we had legends like Juliana Gurjao and Yolanda D'Souza, and then Goa also was a hub where the visiting teams kind of came in. We hosted international matches. But similar to the story of Indian football that we keep on talking about from 83 downfall, and a lot of people attribute that downfall to certain administrative kind of structures and lack of professionalism and all that. So I think Goa also kind of experienced that. But very interestingly, while Goa was always a footballing state, and over a period of time, late Mr. Manohar Parrikar kind of designated Goa as the football state, which I think is a big kind of designation. Somewhere or the other, the gender, the women's football was assumed that it didn't deserve a league. It was assumed that it didn't deserve that kind of attention. While my 5 years over here, and the reason I kind of noticed that traction and that passion for women's football over here, because I came from non-footballing states where I kind of spent 5 years, 6 years. And when you look at those states where the women are actually struggling for the basic necessities of life, and suddenly you come to Goa where the woman is kind of privileged and they are actually going out and playing football in the parks, in the beaches, in the schools and all that. But somewhere or the other, in spite of being a footballing state, we never gave this gender that kind of respect. And because I was working with Vedanta Resources, who have a massive agenda on women empowerment, I think it was the inspiration coming in from my company to my passion that essentially I had, for football, kind of be combined in together. And obviously there were a lot of good people around, Anjali being one. Then we had Memol, Rocky, we have Aditi Chauhan. Once you speak to them, everybody said that a big solution could be creation of a footballing competition. And we said, can we go down, pick up 6 teams, including FC Goa and Churchill Brothers and Sporting Club de Goa, and then get a competition going. In the first 2 days, we get a registration of about 200 players, and we never imagined that these girls kind of were existing in Goa. They got a platform, they came on board, and suddenly you have a singer coming in, a celebrity coming in, people are going out and putting the matches under floodlights, and suddenly it looks much better than the Goa Pro League for men's. So this is something that kind of inspired us more, and similar to obviously the entire nation's feeling that India might participate in the FIFA World Cup, real World Cup, by the way, much before women. So I think people do have the sentiment to kind of support, and we got it done. Having said that, Arunava, this is obviously the positive side of it. Massive challenges. When you just give the girls only 2 months of league, the clubs kind of go back and do nothing. The coaches go back and they are wondering what to do. And the girls, obviously, they need to be fit. And again, something that I realized that there are a lot more physical challenges with a women's body as compared to a men's body. When you don't have the kind of, they need special attention in that sense. So those are the challenges. I think we can get enough people and supporters to come and kind of overcome those challenges also. But think about it, Renova. I'm talking about Goa state, which essentially is designated as a football state, taking some bit of time to kind of revive women's football. And then we are talking about many states where the girls are not even getting basic necessities. Forget about the privilege of football. A long way to go, but I think once our women come out and they create success stories the way Saina Nehwals and Mary Combs of the world have done, I think we get all the support that we need. And under 17 World Cup, Henry, I hope we get more heroes, in fact heroines, to go out and inspire the country.
Exactly. That's you just gave that thing about the under 17 World Cup, and I think that's going to be an interesting one. We saw it for the boys in 2017. That was a booster for a lot of these young boys, and they're already making waves in the Indian Super League. Henry, are you still there? Yes, you're still there. Henry, when we come to speak about women's football, the business of women's football, the importance of that under 17 World Cup, that FIFA has kept the trust in India to organize that tournament and to give India that opportunity to play at the top level. Thomas Dennerby being the coach, a very experienced gentleman who's not only coached at the youth level but even at the senior level at FIFA Women's World Cups. How important is that for the overall growth of women's football in India?
So basically, everybody is asking us the same question: is why India is going into a youth world event? And, we say that this is going to be a catalyst and going to be changing the entire scenario in Indian football. And the same thing happened with the under 17 men's football, where all the government authorities thought that it's a kids game. Under 17 in India, we never heard about it. And when we saw them play like men, and when we saw them play like champions, they were absolutely brilliant to watch. And the way they built up from behind, the way they scored, the fluidity in their attack was absolutely superb to really even contemplate that are they children or are they 17 or are the best players in the world. But over a period of time after the World Cup, they went on to represent their country and their clubs in senior levels. And that was something that opened up the eyes, and the AIFF came up with the structure of under 13, 15 and 18, which was very much powerful for us because we had to bridge the gap between the school football and club football, because in the school after 14, 15, what would happen that the clubs would not take players of 16, 17 years. They had to wait for 3 to 4 years to get into a club. And we lost a lot of players over there. With this structure of 13, 15 and 18, I think we have bridged the gap between the school and the clubs. But to come back to the point of the under 17 World Cup, how important it is for India, if you look at the deep pockets of India, very conservative. Girls don't want to come out and play in short pants. We allowed them to come out in burqas or into their national attire, to come out and play, stating that only shoes are compulsory. And we saw a lot of interest in these girls. But with this under 17 World Cup, we're coming up with a legacy program that will go on to excite under 13s, 15s, and 18s, where the stakeholders like the youth affairs and the sports ministries also will be involved, because they run the school events in all the schools, and plus the federation and the associations also will be a part of it. The university will be a part of it, and that's the reason why we're saying that a legacy program that will go for 5 years, because we're talking about, if we do in 2020, we have got 5 more years to go into when we get into the under-23 AFC Championship or the Women's World Cup coming to India. At that time, we have more players, more people. The important part here is that bring in the girls in millions to play. And that's the objective of the tournament director and FIFA, to say that if we can get India ignited on the football, I think 1/3 of the world is taken care of. And that's how I think the under-17 World Cup women's will unfold. Though we are in the pandemic and we are on a break, I think the dates have really given us a little spark to say that yes, the government has said yes, we will join hands, we will help you, but let us plateau on the number of cases. They're waiting for that, and they feel that November would be the right time to really get into launching of the logos and all such things, so that we're ready to get into it. Till that time, we will try and engage as many as sports teachers which are in the school, the PE teachers, the coaches, the federations, the DSOs, and the university coaches, so that we are engaging them, to excite them, to say that once we get into the main field areas, we want all of you to support it and to make this a reality, that the women's football will be one of the best launched program or the best event happen in the world.
All right. Neel, women's game, your experience, you've come from the US to India.
I see a lot of hands up, Anjali. I see a lot of hands up.
Yeah, that's good. So let's just finish the thing around on the women's thing, and then we'll open up the question. Neel.
Sorry, Arnav, I couldn't hear you exactly. Can you just repeat?
Okay. I just repeat. I mean, when you came over to India, you were working in the MLS. In those days, the women's game was bigger than the men's. That sort of was switched. How have you seen in India?
Sorry, it was cutting out a bit, but I think you said, how have I seen the growth of the women's game in India compared to the US? Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, the US and India, it's so hard to compare the two as well, because the US, we have the university system. We have a very commercially viable youth system. So even when I was playing club soccer in the 1980s, for my team, Orange Coast United in Southern California, we had a women's team and a men's team at all age groups, youth from U10, U12, U14. We were traveling all over the US and to Europe, and there was enough funds for that, because we had people who were paying membership fees to be part of the club. So we had sponsors like Adidas and Nike who were coming in, and this was in the 1980s, early 1990s. Then when I went to UC Santa Barbara, we had a full-fledged women's team. We had Title IX, a lot of scholarships. So in 1999, I went to the Women's World Cup final in Los Angeles, in which there was over 100,000 people in the stadium to watch the US women's team beat China. And that very iconic moment when Brandy Chastain took off her jersey after scoring a penalty shot, and all of a sudden women's football went mainstream on Leno and Letterman. And I watched 2000s where women's football just exploded even more, and the perception of it as well as the participation. India is very different. You know, both the men's game and the women's game are struggling from a commercial viability standpoint. It's struggling from sustainability. It's struggling in terms of the access to venues, access to quality coaching, access. So we've gotten so much better in 10 years. I'm happy on both sides that the kind of progress, especially the last 5 years, that I've been seeing in all aspects of the ecosystem. But as Suki perfectly said, it takes a village. It takes a Vedanta. It takes a Suki. It takes an Anjali and an Nirvan, and it takes many others to even to get something going. And then to sustain that one thing, it's going to take time as well. And so there's a lot more since 2010 and 2009 when I came in 2020. Thankfully, I'm meeting a lot more people with the kind of heart and patience and sensibility of people like Suki and Henry and Anjali and Kishore. So I'm seeing more people do that across India, not just a handful, but more than a handful. I think opportunities like the U17 Women's World Cup will definitely add spark and fuel to the fire and to whatever's happening, because these are going to add a lot more awareness and excitement, and hopefully some more heroines will come out of it. So I'm happy that it's forward progress. I just think that we also need to set expectations. It's going to take a long time until we start to see the kind of growth that we've seen in other parts of the world. India is a unique country. It's uniquely challenging, but also uniquely opportunistic. So if you have patience and you have a lot of persistence and you have a lot of heart to collaborate with other people, and you don't want to own it yourself, you're going to see a lot of growth. And I'm excited for that, but I'm ready to be part of that journey as well.
All right. Kishore, last one in our women's topic discussion round before we open up. I see a lot of hands up. BBFS, of course, at the younger age groups, the girls are part of it. How do you see that whole thing also with your background, of course, of having worked with the AIFF?
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, women's football has to compete with men's football. And because men's football is huge, and there are, so many people who are more invested in the men's game. So it is a little bit of an, it's not like a level playing field as yet. So one very, I've always believed that in order to help the women's game up to a level where it can compete fairly with the men's sport, it is important to put women in, key positions. And I don't know if it is the popular opinion or not, but I feel that women in key positions often tend to have a more balanced view of men's football versus women's football in terms of investment of, say, effort or resources, etc. So I feel, that's a very important point. And but quite a lot of times what we see is that we tend to create a silo for women's football separately or women's sports separately. I think that doesn't work, well. Women have to be there in mainstream positions, which are gender agnostic, so that more resources and effort can be directed to the game. From our own experience, like even at say AIFF, as well as in my my own company now, it was very common that the women would always be more concerned about the women's game, as compared to the men, and that is a common experience that I have had in my own team. Till about 2 to 3 years back, because we were still kind of transitioning till 2 years back, we didn't have any women in critical positions. But now our entire marketing efforts are led by are led by lady. Our entire hiring, recruitment, and the culture area is again headed by women, and they have brought in a completely new perspective, and they have kind of completely changed our our culture and also our focus on the women's game. So it is only after these ladies joined that we have started women or girl specific programs, exclusively girl specific programs, or we started hiring more girl coaches. So yeah, I mean, I think unless there is skin in the game, we are not as sincere with our efforts, because women have skin in the game, more skin in the game, so they naturally their efforts will be more. So that's my core belief.
All right. Let me open up the panel to questions. We've already had more than 100 minutes of discussion so far, and Sukhi had welcomed Rajpal Singh. So if we could have Rajpal maybe ask the first question. I hope you're doing fine, Rajpal. Can you be unmuted? One second.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, Rajpal, you're audible.
Yeah, thank you, Anurag. First of all, it's good to see you. So many common friends. Sukhi is there, Neel is there, Kishore is there, and lots of people. Thank you so much. Just wanted to not questions, but just 1 minute. My views. First of all, I don't want to be sound very pessimist, but let me tell you, in India, business of sports is not there right now. Whatever we are doing, it's in silos we are doing. Football is placed at much better place. Otherwise, other sports, nothing is happening. There are few sports which are like cricket or football or little bit of other sports, table tennis and all. Otherwise, other sports, nothing is happening. Business of sports. Secondly, we are very unorganized. There is nobody to take up policy issues in India for the sports industry. That is why we are very unorganized. I think this is the time when we got time and we must take up our issues to the government. All the industries are asking for some kind of feedback and reform. So in the sports industry also we should ask for, federations, national federations asking for some money from the government of India. We should also ask not just for the federations, but also for the clubs and for the academies. Because, government of India is talking about lots of, funds for the SMEs, but why not sports? But unfortunately, sports are not calculated because sports industry is not organized industry. So we must talk about organizing this industry. Of late, I don't know how many we have seen, but very recently, state of Manipur has given industry status to sports, complete industry status to sports. Why we are not talking about?
Sorry, Rajpal,
Mizoram.
Sorry? Mizoram. Sorry.
Mizoram.
So
yeah.
we should ask similar kind of thing from other states, and why not from the center government? In center government, out of 6 departments, only 3 have given industry status. Why not others? Benefits are given. So we must talk about that. There are so many, anomalies and NOCs we require when we talk about, organizing events. First, we are not many events are not organizing, but whenever we organized event at the private level, unfortunately, we don't get, NOCs and those kind of things. So we must talk about NOCs also. So these are some of the, thing what I thought, I must raise, that there must be something which should be raised about policy issues. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just to clarify what Sukhiji has said, I'm still with the FICCI, but I'm in different department, not sports department. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajpal. Very, very, very important points that you've raised. And I think these are points, Sukhi, you will second me on that we have discussed quite a few number of times over the last decade with all of us there in the room and tried to change. And sadly, things haven't moved. But, the hope never dies. So I think that's a very, very crucial point that not only the AIFF needs to raise for itself, but I think the AIFF also needs to raise for the clubs, for the academies, and for the other stakeholders within the sport to sustain themselves in these very, very trying times. I think that's a very point. Sukhi, you wanted to add something on that?
No, I'll just add one small little thing. This is pretty much a combination of thoughts of Anjali, now who as a business is saying, I'm facing difficulties, and then Rajpal ji talking about Mizoram after so many years becoming the first state to kind of organize, recognize the sports industry. Now here is my case in this particular situation. We've seen so many industries, particularly on the manufacturing side, retailing side, organizing and actually going to the government and asking for support. We are not able to do that as a sports industry. Forget about sports as football stakeholders, because we are not organized. Now imagine if we definitely had some bit of representation to go out to government saying that we also exist. We also have a lot of people who obviously are supported by our businesses, and we definitely are a very proud and passionate kind of part of the business ecosystem. And this is where what Rajpalji had been talking about last 15 years maybe will come to our help. Subsequently, COVID obviously is something that obviously is a major kind of situation, but subsequently we need that representation to go out and say we also are very dignified part of the industry. Obviously our way of doing business is very, very different, but please recognize us. Please recognize that you also need to give me my support.
Maybe that's an opportunity now in this COVID time to fast track that development in regard to for the government to understand that the business of sport is a division of the numerous industries which exist and coexist in India. I think that's, maybe the point. Rajpal, thank you very much for raising those points. Very, very important. I'd like to go on to the others. And on my list, the next person I see is Adarsh Singh. Can we?
Adarsh? Arunava, sorry, butting in again. But in this group, I believe, obviously, there are a few chat messages that have come in. Anjali, good to see that there's one India women's team player also, under 16. Kunakshi, if I'm not mistaken. So I think definitely it deserves us, a certain bit of recognition to that lady to be in this particular forum. Anyway, so good to see people like that.
Kunashri was my panelist yesterday. She's not only in ex-India, she's a PIFA player, and now she's a sports psychologist.
Good to see.
So don't worry, she was my panelist yesterday, and if she has a question, I will definitely get her on. Don't worry.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Go ahead, please.
So, Adarsh, if you want to, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My question is to Sukhi and Neel. This is regarding something that was raised during the session a lot of times, that the money factor would be very concerning in sports in a post-COVID world, that the companies won't be ready to invest money in the sports ecosystem. But my question is that one of the reasons why companies invest in sports, you could say entities, is for a good PR presence, as well as for goodwill, and for also branding themselves as someone who cares for the community. So now when you look at a post-COVID world, that would depend largely on digital, and even the sponsor activations that usually used to happen in person would shift to digital. Do you still see companies leveraging on the fact that sports could be a brilliant way to generate a lot of PR and community recognition?
I'll just quickly pop in and then turn it over to Sukhi. So it's a really important question, Adarsh. And I think one of the difference between we have franchises in India, and then and then there's clubs, right? I think this COVID-19 and this kind of period where everyone, the entire country, is going through some sort of challenge, is a time for us to transform from a franchise to a club in some way. Maybe not legally, but in terms of our approach to our community. So as you've seen, a franchise pops up a lot of times, organizes a team, gets the stadium, gets the operation going, sells some tickets, plays some matches, wraps up for a little bit, and kind of goes away. A club, and as you've seen in Europe and Germany, I'm sure Arnava could definitely speak about this. It's been there in good and bad times, and when we were with our students last year in England, we were spending a lot of time with the West Ham Foundation, as also the Crystal Palace Foundation. And we didn't talk about football at all. We talked about a fire that took place in some part of London, and how the community team was doing a lot of work for them. We talked about racism going on in East London, and how West Ham was doing a lot of work for them. I know that we're in a different world right over here, where maybe finances aren't easy to have 30 people in your community development team to go out and focus on that. But I am with you 100%. When I was talking about consolidation, it's not just consolidation of money, but it's also consolidating priorities. we struggle in ISL in a lot of markets to get supporters to care about our clubs year round. And one of the reasons why is there's no emotional connection to you. That's not your problem, Adarsh. I know you're a diehard supporter, but there's not a lot of people aren't there like you that has that emotional connection. So I fully support what you're saying. Is I would encourage clubs and encourage people like you, Adarsh, to, when you work for a club, or at least propose working for a club, that you can spend your time helping them engage with the community, identifying community challenges and causes to support, and identifying cost-effective ways to make a big impact as well. And then use effective PR to let others know that, hey, this is going on, and do you want to support our team as well? Because that's the way that when the season starts, whenever it does for ISL, I think if the efforts are genuine and authentic, people will be far more interested in supporting the club than if the first time they hear from the ISL club is for ticket sales for the upcoming season.
Sure. Thanks, Neel.
Okay.
So, Adarsh, definitely a very valid point, and I would just kind of, certain times, I can actually get a little irritating with my optimism, and this is a story that I've been telling last 10, 15 years. But Adarsh, when we start looking at, the whole sponsorship scenario, commercialized scenario, we only look at the 2% of the elite football that we are talking about. Yes, that definitely is going to be a struggle. People who have kind of invested, their 40, 50 crores, they definitely will have to figure out what to do. But trust me, again and again, we keep on coming back to the challenges that is faced by the elite football, which for me right now is a 2% of it. Why the 98% is youth football, amateur football, community football, grassroots, and all of that. That is my bigger worry as compared to the sponsorship scenario right now. And trust me, with the kind of heavyweights that are involved in ISL and I-League and all that, I think we'll find the monies. We'll overcome this situation. Maybe it might take a little time. But the bigger worry essentially is for the grassroots and amateur kind of structures that we have, who definitely are already struggling. And most of the support essentially is coming in through the sentiment that Neel just spoke about. It's sentiment for doing something to the community through football as a tool, right? And this is where, while I know there are struggles, Kishore is obviously, having its own challenges and all that, but there's also an opportunity. When I go back to my village in Punjab and actually have a support from a sweet shop to provide kits to the academy that I have in my small little village of 400 families, I know there's something that is kind of going right with that particular model. Similarly, when we come back and try to kind of utilize football as a tool for development, tool for social engagement and personality development of a lot of young kids, that can keep them away from drugs, that can keep them away from social level. That's the far more interesting and challenging kind of a thing that I would love to kind of do. Again, having said that, I do believe with the heavyweights involved in the elite football, we will find solutions. The digital aspect of it, obviously, we've seen a fantastic innovation by Star Sports the other day with the Bayern Munich game. I think those things will happen, and obviously backed by a lot of digital drives. But somewhere or the other, let's also kind of start putting our attention to the 98% of the footballing structure that we have, which needs a lot more support. And I believe, I'm very, very optimistic about it. Once we come out of this COVID situation, there are smaller monies, but very, very significant amounts which are available in villages, in talukas, in communities, which essentially can be driven through to football development projects. And I think more than a challenge, let's take it as an opportunity to go back and say, just to be a part of football, you don't necessarily have to have that 4 crore of paycheck, check to become a sponsor in an ISL team. You can actually also go down to a village, to a taluka, to a district, to a state for that matter. What is happening really to our state leagues? Nobody's talking about it. But if that we don't get that right, where is the base of pyramid? Where is the supply of talent that is going to come out from, and who's going to play in the ISL? So I think what Neel essentially highlighted essentially is the power of sports to essentially engage the communities. And if you have them engaged, I think supporters will come. And that's my worry for the 98% of the footballing structure. And 2%, trust me, there are salesmen like me who will go out and sell football and then do it well, even in interesting times.
But again,
I think it was very important for you to bring that up, the 98%, because that will make us think more in depth. Yeah, Nava.
Yeah. So just adding on top of what Neel and what Sukhi have said, and I think that's a very valid question that you've raised, and Sukhi has raised the point of, and this is a general problem in India, because you rather run as a sponsor to someone, you become the 100th sponsor of an IPL team, to rather being, you know, the title sponsor of a competition of a team or whatever, where your access to the community is bigger. So that needs to be a change also in the corporate world of shifting, is of the marketing people, of how do you actually utilize sports for your brand. You rather, I said, you rather go to Virat Kohli or to an IPL team and say, listen, I've got them, it works. Again, India is a very celebrity driven country as well when it comes to sponsorships, when it comes to really selling sponsorships. The concern that I have, and that's going to be a global question, is now is that we are in the middle of a pandemic, yes, but there's the other problem which will now come, and which will be a global recession. The question is, how much money will corporates really have to spend on marketing? What will be the marketing budgets? Because example today, a car company like Renault has said 15,000 people are going to be laid off. Yeah. So these are realities. They're discussing what are they going to do with the Formula One team? They have football sponsorships also in France. So these are very, you know, if you put this whole bracket together, it's going to be very, very interesting at a country level like India, but also on a global level, is who's going to be strong enough to be able to support things. Take a global brand like Emirates. Emirates has sponsorships with top clubs like Real Madrid, like Arsenal, have had PSG in the past, are with AC Milan, are with Hamburg, have got clubs in Eastern Europe. Will they be able to spend those 3-digit figures in millions on sponsorships? So that's going to be a very interesting time that we are in, and I think that movement will be very interesting to see how we all come out of this crisis.
Sure. Thanks, Arnav.
You're welcome. Next question I see on my list is Shubham Jindal.
Yeah, I'll just unmute him. Yeah.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Shubham from Kalimpong, Darjeeling. My question to the panel is, considering the recession and a decline in globalization we're expecting post-COVID, how open would Indian academies and clubs, be it bigger clubs or smaller clubs, be open to strategically partnering with European football clubs in the future, like we have seen with the likes of Real Madrid or Borussia Dortmund? Do we see that happening still, or we will see a decline in that?
Interesting question. Who wants to take that one? Neel, you want to take that?
I think Arunava, you
I'll just
answer that.
Or should I? Okay, I'll answer that. I'll tell you an example that I've had a few conversations with the Bundesliga over the last 2 weeks about these things, and it looks very, and it could be that Bundesliga clubs might be reducing staff. So a club like Bayern Munich has over 1,000 people working for the club, and they have offices in China, they have offices in the US, and it's, their main task, of course, is, and they've shifted. Borussia Dortmund is a very good example. Borussia Dortmund has shifted the way they have been doing the internationalization. We had plans with Borussia Dortmund for India this year, practically to bring something into India. But now they've moved more into digital and trying to interact with digital. But Borussia Dortmund is a good example on this. They tried something in Germany with Marco Reus. The problem was that digital Zoom conference didn't work out because it was after the game against Schalke. Borussia Dortmund thrashed Schalke, and Borussia Dortmund fans started abusing Schalke. So then the club, in its situation, was they actually had to shut it down. So the question is, will they look at India? Yes. But again, you have a general problem when European clubs look at India. They look at the models that they've used in China, that they've used in the US and other parts of Asia and the world, where there's a commercial interest of partnering. So even if you say that a Bhaichung Bhutia football schools, or if I look at a PIFA, have done good work in India, for an European club to work with them, the Indian entity actually would have to put money on the table to say, hey, listen, I want to work with you and I want to get your brand in. Which from an Indian perspective doesn't make sense anyway, because to recoup that money is very, very difficult. So the question is, how do you structure that in a way? And I think the European clubs will also focus now on their key markets, because there is a danger that the new season might also start without fans in stadiums. So that means that their approach to digital, we've talked a lot about digital today as part of it. How do you then also, as football clubs, more and more try to digitalize and try to monetize that digital that you're creating and then you're putting out? Will be free platforms like YouTube or other social media channels? Will they suddenly create platforms where it's a paid content where you subscribe and say, hey, you've got access to extra content? So that's going to be an interesting part of development of how this puzzle really comes together.
Yeah.
All right, Shubham, does that answer your question? It does, right? So, okay.
Yeah.
Next on my list, I have Leah Poonawala. Leah, if you want to go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, as a passionate Indian female football player, my question will obviously be related to this disparity between the men and women in the business of sport. So, all over the country, there are numerous male exclusive academies for football. Do you think it's possible to create a women's only football academy, let's say in Mumbai at this point in time, considering we weren't under lockdown right now? And I mean, I'm not really talking about an NGO that helps underprivileged girls play the sport, but a proper women's or girls only academy that can monetize itself, develop as a recognizable business, so that they can help these girls learn the proper skills to become a professional and play football as their primary career. So I'm not directing this question to anyone in particular, but do you think this is possible, and why, or why not?
Kishore, you want to take it?
Yeah, I can, but I think Anjali probably would be better placed to answer that.
Kishore, she's already playing for my team. She's my captain.
Okay, great.
Okay, so Anjali's out.
I'm already doing everything I can. Okay, but I must tell you, Leah has an international passport, and I tried very, very, very hard to get her international transfer certificate. So I've done everything I could do to make sure Leah plays at the highest level. She plays for my IWL team.
I think Kishore should take it. But just to mention over here, there are some fantastic programs that we know of, and everybody on the panel actually. One is obviously more of a social project called Yuva back in Jharkhand, and the impact that it has created. I think you should just go out and kind of look it up. It's phenomenal. I think me and Neel actually have personally gone to that village, and forget about the commerce side of it, business side of it. He's doing it right, and he'll get the support. So that's why he won the Laureus Award, and he has enough funding that's coming to him to do what he's doing. On the other hand, obviously Aditi Chauhan, the Indian national team goalkeeper, she's created a project called She Kicks FA. That's back in. But again, one chat with her, and you realize that this lady is essentially talking about targeting the metros and pretty much the bigger cities where football education is required. Or do you, Kishore, or do you?
Yeah. No, I believe that it is possible to create exclusive programs for girls, and we have one such program in Delhi, which we run free of cost. So that whole group has now it's become a bigger group from when we had started, say about 1.5 years back. Then we also have, I think, one of our women coaches here who, on this call today. She, Monica Bisht, she shifted from Delhi. She was one of the leaders. She's also a B licensed coach, I think. So she used to be one of the leaders in the Delhi project, and now she's moved to Bangalore. And if COVID had not happened, we would have started a exclusive girls program by now. So it is possible. And I think one of the big reservations for girls in coming to academies to train is exactly this, that they don't feel comfortable, may not feel comfortable beyond after a certain age to kind of play along with the boys. So it is possible. It is important to give all kinds of options. The more options the consumers have, the more options the girls have. the better, the more they are going to come and join. So yeah, so we need to create more options.
Yeah, Alia, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Great, you're welcome. I have Kushagra Mishra next here on my list. Kushagra, if you want to go ahead with your question.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, hi panel. So, as everyone knows that the regional leagues are very important to give a platform to the young budding athletes. What are the ways of monetizing these small leagues when you don't have a big chunk of sponsorship money coming towards them or a broadcasting revenue coming towards them? What are the other ways you can monetize a small regional league, and also by not taking money from the athletes to come and participate in those leagues?
Sukhi, you want to take it?
Definitely. I think Henry, you want to kind of just comment on this? I've seen you kind of managing a state and the league, so maybe some perspective, please.
Sir, mute.
Henry, you need to unmute, please.
So basically, everybody is looking out for opportunities, whether it is a player, a coach, or a team, or everybody. Today we got from Ms. Poonawala also a question that what if we can get an academy? The important is that to create an opportunity, a platform for them to play also. So basically, when you talk about non-funding leagues, you have to have a greater passion, number one, and who's going to do it. Whether it's a state association, a district association, or a federation, we have to put up a big remark over there that if a state association does, what is the reach, how they're going to do it. State association will never do anything without membership or without registration fees, which has to sustain. So sustainability is something that you were talking about. How do you do up leagues without charging the players? You can really do it. There are many sources that you can go out to. The CSR funding is there. There are people who really want to do certain things. Academies can actually come out with programs that we had the Times Group, Mumbai Mirror working with us in forming those leagues for women's, which we had 115 teams participating in it. So we need to really exercise ourselves as to what we want to do, what is the type of a league we're talking about. If it is a regional league, I think the AIFF is bound to support the entire thing. If it's within the state supports it, and within the district supports it. And if you want to do it privately, then automatically you have a marketing team which can actually go out to really bring out that kind of monies, or you open up a souvenir which will participate by people putting in. But directly you saying that I want to start a league, it will be only of passion, that how many teams want to participate in your league. If there is no money, if there is an opportunity that by playing in your league, we can go out to the state level or a district level or a national level, definitely there will be in force of teams coming into it. But I think most relevant is that if it is privately done, it has to be brought in a sustainability plan. But if it is done by the state or a district, it is an automatic thing that they would go in for registration fees and get the organization done with some monies coming from out. Because today the perception of football with state associations or a district association is totally low. It's very low because of many factors. One is the honorary structure of the entire situation, and the other one is that no professional secretariat in the association or a district association. So we have to. There's a long way to go if you want to do something free, of course. But if there is an opportunity with the AIFF really putting the states as implementers for their programs of under 15, 18, you will have to align your tournaments and teams like that so that you can participate in those activities.
Thank you, sir.
Sukhi, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I mean, exactly what I expected from Henry. I think you kind of set, the larger structure, which I think I couldn't have done that well. And Chagra, this actually kind of gets me into, pretty much a submission that it is a very, 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 very difficult job. Okay, and yes, I mean we've taken up this particular kind kind of challenge, and we definitely are responsible for selling football. But also you need to understand, while football is our passion, we need to give enough respect to the principles of the industry as such. So the way you would market a product, a brand of biscuit or a brand of IT software, I think you need to do the same thing with football. Again, using your passion and then kind of collaborating with what the industry or what the sponsor can get out of it. Different states, different regions definitely are very, very different. Two examples that come to my mind. I think the trendsetter is Mizoram. Mizoram Premier League, with a budget of 25 lakhs, creates something which is beautifully done, engages a lot of people, keeps the sponsor happy, and it's been happening again and again. And the result of it is that Mizoram, from 2005, Arunava, if I'm not mistaken, with just one player called Mama, to now, where there are about 48 to 50 players in the top league in the country, is something that kind of has been able to achieve. So it's the league which was properly formatted, properly integrated with the sentiments of the community, with the sponsor and broadcaster in place, was able to create those results. And once you get those results,
so just to add on top of it, if we're taking the Mizoram example, I think the Mizoram example is a very good example of how a state association driven by a young person, and someone like Taid took over, worked with his friends of Tato and Mapuya, who were running a TV channel, Zoonet, over there. They put in 1.25 crores into the league, gambled, and said, listen, this is my money into 5 years. You show me a result. And the Mizoram in those days also only had mainly government teams who were strong. You know, the Mizoram police, you had the army, you had this, you had that. But you've also had your Aizol's FC, your Chanmaris FC, your Chanmari West, and your other clubs which I can't even pronounce. And let's not even get down that road, Sukhi. But that's the example of where you started with nothing. You also, your infrastructure was non-existent. They only had the Lamwal as a pathetic ground because of the weather conditions up there in Aizol. But with that, the state government support, the government ensured that they invested 30 crores into sports infrastructure, mainly into football. And in combination of the state government working together with the State Football Association, working with the clubs who are mainly community clubs. So we're not talking about ISL, IPL style clubs, but Aizol FC or the Chanmaris and all, there are people clubs. So the people own and support the clubs. And in that way, Mizoram has built first the men's game, then started off with the under 18, under 15 leagues. Tata came on board. Now they have a center of excellence over there. They've now started the women's league over there as well. Now suddenly you see young Mizo girls also coming through the youth system. So Mizoram is of course, Mizoram is a very, very small state in an Indian context. But Mizoram shows you the example that if you do the right things at the right time, you do not need your 15, 20 years of really show success. You can show success in a 3 to 5 year time period where you get your youth teams to the top. Mizoram has been regular champions of the under 19s, under 16 championships. I said with the women's, they've been successful, and you know, your JJs, your Dikas are not your exceptions. They're the role models of having those many players also at the ISL and I League level. Sukhi, please. Sorry.
Valid. I mean, you might kind of go out and say that Northeast has abundant talent and everything, but again, I'm talking about 2005 when there was just one player coming out of Mizoram. And Mizoram, mind you, has the kind of challenges that other states can't even imagine. Now, cut to a situation in 2018-19 where a state like Rajasthan, we never ever imagined that Rajasthan had any kind of football culture or whatever it might be. But then there comes in a group which creates a Rajasthan Football League. And I think that also is an incredible kind of example for me, because this kind of takes us away from a hotbed of football to a complete new virgin territory. And over there, some people, essentially people like Shubham, people like Sohil, kind of came in and used their network. Ultimately, it's about convincing and making people believe that it's a great kind of project to work with. And I think people kind of start trusting you, believing you. I think the required support will come. So, Kusharga, my idea essentially after Henry set up this context was to tell you that one is a Mizoram kind of example. So let's not kind of be disheartened that there's nothing really happening at the regional level. And on the other side, there's an ambition which even Rajasthan has shown right now. But again, a lot of hard work within that. while we treat football as a passion, we also need to respect the sentiments of the industry, what they need out of it. Certain times you have to sell. You have to go out and just sell, 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 sell. It's not going to be just that one call that you make and then you crack your deal. It has to be a continuous process. They need to see your face again and again to believe that you're still there.
Kushagra, I think that answers your question. Thank you, Sukhi. Next, I see in my line is Coach KD. KD, if you want to take over and ask your question, if you could put the sound on for KD.
Can you all hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
you're audible.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Good evening.
No, your voice is cracking. KD, your voice is cracking.
KD, your voice was cracking.
KD, hello?
I think we've lost him.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, it's raining and there's a net connection. There's a net problem, but bear with me, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so it was good to listen to all the panelists, and most of them are known faces, from Henry Bhai to Kishore, Arunava, sorry, and Sukhi and all. Everyone is there. Neel is there. So my point is, right now we are struggling with COVID-19, and looking forward, looking ahead, the kind of scenario in schools is that parents are still raising voice to pay the fee. Now, knowing that, looking at the academies and professional aspect of the game, where where is it, whether it's PIFA or BBFS or any other academy or any other business, football business we people are running or we are running together. My point is, if parents, because academics like Asian countries or subcontinent they're more inclined towards academics as compared to Europe, right? So, and as it is, the common man is struggling with basic necessities of life like roti, kapda, makan and all. How do you think that you are going to maintain passion and professionalism together? That's my first question. Because I myself have been as a coach involved throughout with the grassroots and youth football and as well as senior football. And we have been in this field ever since 2000. Arunava knows it, and many of you people know that we've been running academy, which people are now talking about last 2-3 years about grassroots and baby league and all. We've started way back in year 2000, and we have seen couple of many. It has transformed the lives. You can see Mayanti Langer, who is now and a commentator, a freelancer, started her career. She was a football player and was a league coordinator for our league and moved into when G Sports started their football commentary, and she was there with alongside Henry Bhai. And now she has become, you all can see where she is reached now. She has even covered 2010 FIFA World Cup. My point is, one is we are struggling with this. Parents are raising voice to pay the fee. You have your own staff to manage and to look after them. Second, when it comes to business, and I'm for it that yes, you have to make it from a business point of view, you have to make it sustainable. How do you think? Because when I see at the grassroots levels with many of the academies, I don't see quality coaches at the grassroots level, at the entry level. I've been very strongly telling people, as an instructor, that you need to have people, quality coaches. When you talk about maths teacher, chemistry teacher, physics teacher, you knock 10 doors or 20 doors before you hire someone, or you want to hire a tutor for your own child. But when it comes to playing soccer, you think, okay, you have started an academy. Okay, now let's keep anyone. I have seen the school boys or other the college going boys coming and doing coaching without any experience, any knowledge. So that's the entry. That's the face of your academy, where you need to have quality coaches. It's not just about playing football, it's beyond football. You have to groom entire personality through football, whereby you can produce, they can have a lot of revenues coming, or a lot of, what you call, it's not one aspect of playing as a player, but you can have a lot of other aspects coming in your way. You can become a great commentator, you can become a sports journalist, you can have your own. So you need to have quality coaches there who can also talk to parents and bring that kind of awareness. So how do you see this improving? And no one is focusing on school football. No one is talking about school football, which is the need of the hour. Because every child cannot afford to go to XYZ academy. You have to have quality coaches at school level. We need to talk to government regarding this. You know, uh, Everybody doesn't have that kind of support. More than 80% of our population lies in the rural areas, right? So the common man will think of paying the school fee first rather than going for an academy and pay their fee. So if you could put some highlight, and if do we have some plan to look into all these and talk to government about, people are going for license courses, but where are the jobs? People
Um,
still prefer diploma in football coaching from SAI and IS and all, because they are getting jobs in their respective states. But if I do a license, and unless there's an academy or some professional club, no one is going. So somewhere we have to make this change in our education policy and education ministry, that people have to, barring their physical education qualification, they also have to have a license if they are going for football, going to join as a football coach. So a lot of things are there to discuss. If you could throw some light in this
okay.
on this aspect.
We'll do that. Henry, I think, do you want to take up the topic regarding how Sai and the AIFF have been coming together in this times of COVID-19 and trying to do coach education, especially online, and trying to as a starting point?
Let me unmute myself. Okay. Basically, now the discussion with Sai was that how we can implement our licenses in their course, and which Sai has agreed upon, stating that all Sai courses will have the football license that can be taken up during that course. So that solves the problem. The point which KD is making is not about the coaching license or something. He's talking about the quality of coaches and the sustainability after into coaching. So my first lecture in every license would be that how many of you think football is a business? And if there is a hand raised up that football is a business, then it is fine. If the hands are not raised up, you don't know actually what you're doing and why are you in the system. So important over here is that if you think football is a business and if you got a coach license, you need to go back to the ground every day, and you cannot go back to the ground every day if you don't have a sustainable plan with you. And that's the reason why today the academies or football centers have grown, because they felt that yes, to hire a ground, or earlier where grounds were very available, easily available. We didn't have to pay for the grounds, we didn't have to pay for the balls. But today you have to pay for every damn thing. You talk about an assistant or a football or a cone or a marker, or for that matter a classroom, or for your projector, or for your t-shirts or bibs and all such things. You have to pay for it. And for that reason, a sustainability plan was supposed to be made by the coaches so that they go every day back to the game. And that's the reason why we had so many centers coming up. And with the AIFF really getting into the system, getting in their instructors, moving into it, there was some bit of laxity, we would say, in the quality of coaches that were passed. And there were a certain amount of complaints, and was taken up by AIFF. And I think there were many of the instructors, or the instructors were warned onto passing of players or passing of coaches, and all the actions were taken by the AIFF. The idea to get these coaches were the standardization of football training, and that's very important, because I remember myself initiating this D license program in India, and it was a very great success, with Mumbai really getting out to 65% of the coaches of Indian gambit. So we were very proud to say that, okay, we had 45 to 60 coaches in 2011-12, But today we are talking about more than 4,500 coaches in the state of Maharashtra, with about 2,500 or 3,000 grassroots leaders. And it was made in such a way so that we spread out that passing and receiving should be very easily done by these. If you have a football knowledge, you got into this system, you've got your license, your passing and receiving would have been standardized across the centers. But there are certain people who are not of that quality that we talk about, and people engage such coaches. So monitoring system is one of the biggest thing that we need to really bring about in the centers. That is the reason why Western India Football Association started the development centers, which went on to 79 or 80 such centers registered in it, and monitoring was done. Even in the baby leagues, some part of monitoring was done with the help of Mumbai City FC. And we saw that there's a lot of issues were resolved. Some of issues were not resolved. But that's going to happen in the system till we get into monitoring properly. We get in each and every club or center to be registered with the association. Today, the objective is that not to move more than 3 to 4 kilometers from your home. That is how we have taken football to the people. Earlier, people used to come to the football or come to different centers. But yes, now today we've seen a huge amount of centers from PIFA, maybe Kenkre, maybe BBFC. And there are bound to happen such issues hard to come, and we have to resolve those things. I think that will happen as time goes by and we become more professional and take responsibility. So I think I have answered that question very well, because I know this coach education is my baby, and we really went on to say that AFC could deliver us 60 to 100 coaches in a year, but with the D license and now the E license, we are delivering in thousands.
All right. Kishore, you want to add something on regard to the quality of coaching and how you ensure that you have the highest standards of coaches at BUFS?
Sure. I think just to add to Henry's point and Keshav sir's point as well. Basically, there are some things that the market also takes care of. Any academy that continuously hires bad coaches or poor coaches, they will not survive in the long run, because there is competition now. It has now become like a highly competitive market. So it is in the interest of the academies to hire the best possible coaches they can. Secondly, I think every academy, I'm sure, has processes of selection. At BBFS, what we do is we only take the top 10% that we interview, and we also, in fact, see their on-field delivery as well. That is also possible. So if we have, say, 200 coaches today, that means we must have at least screened more than 2,000 coaches, right? So every academy, I'm sure, would have their own such process. And the like market, the poorer ones will get chucked out. It's like as the industry gets more and more professionalized, there will be more demand for people who are genuinely, who are of better quality as compared to the rest.
Kishore, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, okay. You said it very rightly, but as how many parents are so thorough about the game that they'll be asking question to a coach. It's whatever you are providing, they are believing in that. Not many academies and not many associations are particular about maintaining their standard. So, and what the parents are, they always come and talk about their own days. Oh, we used to do this, we used to do that. They only talk about that, and knowing that sports is not a priority in our society, they are not aware of what's happening in the modern football, how the game has evolved and how the game has changed over the years. What is the need of the hour? Why we are not moving up the ladder? So, not many parents will come and question about it. So, and that's the golden period of a child, which we are, somehow killing that golden period, and he starts losing interest, and because of that, he's not able to reach where he or she should be reaching. So, we are talking about all we're discussing on all these things. And Anjali, my question, yeah, you've started a great initiative. I'm for it, and I'm always for the game. When Kishore and all they started, we worked together, and it has created a lot of awareness in the society, and has have developed a lot of interest. So we are doing as per the need. Now this is the necessity that we have to come out with this some solution about talking about football and doing something online to keep everybody alive in the game.
KD, I would like to interfere over here and say that today AIFF has come out with accreditations. They have come up with academy accreditations. You must actually know which academy is going to give you quality coaches and which academy is not going to give you quality coaches. If you are going to put in the money, if you're going to put in the money, you're not going to take all the shit from the coaches who are giving you inferior.
Yeah. Henry Bhai, you have said it very rightly. AIFF is doing a great job. I'm not saying that no, they have started it very well, and not many associations are so proactive like yours. So again, it's a combined effort in bringing the best and giving the best and getting the best. So your organization is very proactive, very organized, and things are happening. Very often and with utmost professionalism. So not many associations, the situation, how difficult it is to, even people are not able to get the access towards the licenses when till AIFF started with online registration. We used to struggle to get into the license courses. Many of us have lost.
I think that's the reason why we got into the online process.
Exactly.
But I'm happy that over the years AIFF has done a lot of good things. I'm for it, and I'm being one of the instructor at the grassroots level and the D license. I have seen a lot of changes, and I'm always there for the game. And the only thing is, somewhere we have to create this ambience, where we attract. We attract the society,
Can I just say something here?
I don't know. I'll just suggest over here is that KD has got some good questions over there. If we can put it up to me or to Anjali or to Arunava or any of the panelists, I think we can take this up, stating as if the suggestions or something of that sort.
Sure.
Otherwise be discussing.
Yeah, Katie, if you can put down your questions, and then, or maybe Anjali, maybe we'll do a totally separate session on this, maybe.
Certainly, why not?
To take it forward, because the points are very, very valid. The thing
is, very valid, very valid.
Just to Katie, I don't want to cut you off.
Arunava, can I just say something here?
Yeah,
Arunava?
Sure, please.
Okay, basically, KD, this topic was taken up at the executive meeting of the All India Football Federation the last time we all actually met physically, and it was discussed whether we should get a little more strict with the kind of people we are bringing into the system. But I think the overall view taken by a majority of the executive committee was not to limit it right now, because we are in no position to limit it as yet. India is a very, very big country, and lots of work has to be done at the grassroots level. And which is why a collective decision was taken that we do still need the numbers, and we still want to grow the number of coaches in the country. So
agreed, and well said. That's fine. I am not saying, rather we can improve them and we can improve upon their, that I don't want to stop anyone, because it's not like if I have, if you have to tax someone, but see how we can improve those coaches.
Definitely.
Also, my one suggestion, I'll be separately writing to you, Anjali. I'll separately write all my questions, and also my one suggestion, and I'm sure Henry Bhai will agree with this, because every child cannot afford to go to an academy and being part of that academy. So can we get some access for the schools who are proactively involved to get them direct entry if they fulfill certain criteria to be part of that league in that zone?
Okay. Now, we will definitely take all your suggestions, and KD, we'll do a separate session on coaches also. There's one last question from Mr. Satyanarayan. I'm going to take him on right now. Yeah, Mr. Satyanarayan, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good evening to all. I think apart from Henry, I have not met most of you all. I've been a journalist, and right now I'm the General Secretary of the Karnataka State Football Association.
Sir, I've met you.
Yes. Sorry. And also,
I met you as well, sir. You forget it.
Oh, sorry, guys.
I've actually met you as well.
We all met him.
Okay,
You're depressing me in this COVID situation, sir.
No. I was just.
I don't need to have a beard.
No. I just wanted to say blame it on the COVID. And in fact, on a lighter note, I was thinking perhaps if they know my face, I would have got a chance to ask the question earlier. Anyway,
no, I was trying to raise my voice, saying that Satyanarayan is there.
Anyway,
but Arunava comes from another country.
It's not my fault.
He comes from another country.
Anyway,
for the last
yeah. See, of course, we've been inspired by what people like Henry and all have done in Maharashtra. Little bit of what the northeastern states have done. We've just taken up office about 7 months. I've been a journalist for about 25, 30 years. Now, when you're talking of the 2% who will get their money, Henry knows in Bangalore earlier we had all these institutions which all used to give employment and used to have players. Now it is shifted and we have all passionate people who are running these clubs. In fact, even this year, we had Kickstart, which came on new on the scene. They were unbeaten, they finished second, but they couldn't take part in the I-League second division for lack of sponsors and maybe funds. So my question is, now as an association, as we go ahead, money is going to come into, that's the last thing which people are going to think of, putting money into sport. So how is this going to affect our local club football? Because, all those people who drive these super division clubs, the A division clubs, they're all going to be hit by this. So, what is the future for us clubs? Because, all these academies are doing at 17, 18, these kids have to come into the clubs. So, we have to keep the clubs alive. So, I'm just trying to see how we can get a solution where, to keep these clubs going. Where will the support come from? Where will the money come from? I just thought, since it's a business in sport, and it was fascinating to listen to all you guys. And I just want to get some inputs on, how these clubs can go forward so that, we can try and pass on this message. Thank you, guys.
Who wants to take it first?
I have a small remark, and maybe because Mr. Satyanarayan, obviously, when you're talking about Karnataka and also the business of football, I think I just wanted to make a submission that I've closely watched the scenario for last 15 years, and this is where maybe I'll put in some remarks. Maybe not an exact solution that anybody would look at. Earlier, Kushagra also asked a similar question, but I think every region has very, very different complexities and challenges, plus more importantly the opportunities that could be leveraged in different ways. So sir, I completely understand right from HAL to ITI, the institutional phase of Karnataka football, and I think it was great. If you ask me, looking at the footprint in Karnataka, Bangalore in particular, I think that particular phase was essentially sustained by institutional investors and also the coaches attached to these clubs. Fantastic people, sir. I've met a lot of them, and why companies were investing, essentially because there were right kind of people with great bit of credibility and honesty, and that's the reason the CSR monies or the corporate social responsibility monies were being invested. So I think that was one phase, and then obviously came one phase where there was the whole conversation about, can we develop the Bangalore League? If you remember, sir, there was a conversation on FC Bangalore at one point of time. I'm sure you would have covered it. And then ultimately JSW also came in. So I also seen that phase where there actually were monies kind of which came in, and then a scenario right now, I think as compared to about 10 years back, it's a little better. I'm not saying it's a perfect scenario for Karnataka right now, but still it's a lot better. And I do hear about the women's league that has kind of started. So looking at the time frame of about 10 years, I think there have been some great steps that have been taken. And to your point, I think how it can kind of become better by actually having a sustainable league, by having clubs which obviously are a lot more sustainable. And for that, again, I go back to the same examples of Mizoram, Rajasthan, where I think there have to be a little professional approach which understands the sentiment of the industry. And Bangalore, sir, has everything and anything that corporate world has to offer. So I think it's just a matter of time when people like you obviously will come in with their knowledge. People who are kind of trying to get into the industry. Neel Shah is kind of creating a lot of talent for the industry to go out, and a couple of them actually have interest in Bangalore. So I think it's just a matter of time, and there are new coaches that are coming in with all the kind of dedication and the kind of vision that they have. So I think all these factors kind of coming in will definitely take us 10 years back to now. I think we've taken a couple of steps, and for us to kind of make that leap, I think certain ecosystem needs to come in place, and I see that happening at least with Bangalore and some parts of Karnataka. I kind of see that happening, but again, it needs to go back to the drawing board, really understand what the industry requires, really understand what the club ecosystem requires. Because ultimately, it's not about money. It's about investing money, which essentially is going to create certain ROIs. So we need to look at that process rather than saying we need money. I think we definitely need investments, which essentially creates ROI for everybody involved, including the person who's going to put the money. So that's my submission, Mr. Satyanarayan.
Yeah, and just to add to it, what Sukhi said, I think because interestingly, I was involved in a project 10 years ago where we did an analysis about creating Bangalore FC, and at the time the investor took a decision against it because the commercial numbers just didn't add up. Which again, if that person did it today again, he would come to the same conclusion at the end of the day. But that's again the discussion about commercialization of Indian football per se, or club football per se, where actually you start with the loss the second you get involved in Indian club football. That's a reality that everybody faces, and doesn't matter if it's ISL, it's I-League, and you go down the ladder. Now, Bangalore has had a transition of the last 10-15 years where your institutional clubs have sort of phased out, also because at the national level that phasing out has happened. It was ITI, HAL, Air India, ONGC. There were a number of teams, especially from Bangalore and from Mumbai, which were involved, and none of them actually grasped the opportunity of creating that private limited club to be part of that national level football. Because for them, at the end of the day, the cost base would have been less because most of the players were somehow staff. I will always remember a player, Xavier Vijay Kumar, brilliant player, HL player, who sort of never wanted to take that leap and actually leave the institution and join a professional team. Now the situation, I think, is totally different. Where in the situation, of course, Bangalore FC has set the standard, and they've set a very, very high standard, not only for Bangalore, Karnataka, but the whole of India. And then you have these new kids on the blocks, be it South United, Kickstart. I know the guys at Bangalore United FC quite well, and I see in the other teams which are there. And there's a scene which has developed, even with Boca Junior Academy having its space. BBFS is there in the market. So the thing is that every club seems to also have their own model. South United building their own infrastructure, Kickstart doing their own thing. We were hitting that a few days ago in another webinar here. And the problem that all of these clubs have is to create that connect, that society, that connect to the fan. Because that is the difference. I think that is why Mizoram has been so successful, is because these old age clubs who had a people's connect came into the new age. And that is something where, can your traditional teams, it's not just HL, ITI, but, CIL, ADE, MEG, whatever they're called, all these teams, do they have a future, or is it all going to be these clubs which have been formed in the last few years and have sort of taken over the scene? So I think that is the problem that Bangalore faces, and to find a solution for that you have that competitiveness, because again, there are certain players who will not want to take that jump and become a professional, rather stay with the corporate. Can you allow that competition in your leagues or not?
And can I hear from Henry, please? Because he's been there in the state and he knows it.
Well said, Arunabha. I think the connect is missing even in Delhi. Maharashtra and the state where they have local, the kind of flavor. Mizoram, they have local flavor. It's the debate evolves around soccer for society or society for soccer.
Good
well
point,
said.
Teddy. Thank you, Henry, please.
Henry, unmute yourself.
Okay. So Satyanarayan ji, I would say what Karnataka is doing nowadays is so appreciable. I saw your new turf laid down outside the stadium. It has already come. You're going to now relay the new turf, which I have seen that report, very well done. I think what the leadership counts. Karnataka were very rigid in the earlier years, where they wouldn't allow anybody or they wouldn't want new things to happen in their vicinity,
Right.
which I know very well. And that is the reason why Karnataka football was dipping down till JSW came in to really make Bangalore FC. And today, if we talk about Karnataka, we talk about JSW, and you would not like to take that credit. But then also, the issue is that you have been a fantastic sustainable association, because I remember in India, there were only two associations who had their own ground. One was you,
Yours and ours.
one was ours. So it is a fantastic to understand that you really know your product and you know how people are going to be there in the system because of your leadership, because of the work that you have started doing, laying off the new turf itself is so exciting that no club would want to leave you. Keep that in mind. They might reduce the quality of players, or they might bring in the flair of new or local players into being, but they will keep in the team. They will come into the competition because you have hit the map of the India. You have hit the map of India with the artificial turf, which has come out of the blue. We never expected Karnataka to come out with with an artificial turf so soon, and you have got a fantastic plan in place. He's saying that we'll have only 2 matches in a day, and the rest of the matches we will see that how we can execute 1.75 crores, how we can get in. So you are creating a good perception about
Learning
your
from
association.
you,
No.
From you.
You are started a new creating a good perception about your state. Many state associations do not have that good perception because of the leadership. Today, because of you coming in, you have been in the forefront of football for a long time. But now you are in the range. You have to do better by changing the perception when no clubs would want to leave you. They would say, boss, I will bring in the local players, I will bring the underprivileged kids, but I will play in this tournament. That passion has to be driven by the leader of the association. And I think you are the best fit and you don't have to get worried. Paisa hai ya nahi hai. Football will grow on, go on. There's nobody going to stop you from playing that quality football. I still remember Stafford Cup. I still remember playing in Bangalore with a house full, ITI, HAL. They have brought in such fantastic Vijay Kumar, Joe De Silva. You name them, big players have come out from there. And that layup till today, you have got fantastic players who are in the ISL also. I don't want to name because it will create this thing, but ISL also has created so many players from Karnataka who have gone in to play. So yes, you are on the right path. You don't have to worry about it. It's just that you have to create a product list of which are the activities which will be participating by many people. Who will participate? How your people will participate in the activities that you've done, how you change your perception. You try to keep your products in such a way that organizations and companies will buy it so that you get certain amount of sponsorship. Sponsorship is not necessary to come into monetary. If they can stream your matches, if they can give you something in kind, nothing like it. Everything is good now in today's format. And don't say no to anything that comes in. It's incoming free hona chahiye. So that is the way you can manage, and with your dynamism, I think it is fantastic to see. I am so glad that artificial turf, jab bhi main dekha, it is already rolled off and kept behind the stadium. Now it is going to be laid in the next 10 days. And before the rains, what more do you want? There will be, out of your 100 clubs, there will be at least 60 clubs who want to be on that artificial turf during the rains. So you're on the fantastic path, Mr. Satyanarayana. You don't have to worry at all. And I think we are blessed to have you today in this forum also.
Thank you, guys. Just one small note. They're talking of coaches. Henry, last year we produced about 250 D-licensed coaches, and almost all of them have been absorbed by the academies and schools. So, and all of them are getting between 15 to 18 to 20,000
Fantastic. I thought because Karnataka coaches used to come to Maharashtra to do the license.
Yes.
And they used to simply ask me one question, is that why Karnataka is not doing? I said it's a leadership. And now since you have come there, I think it's going to grow. And like I told Neel, that every resource that we create is going to be absorbed by the sporting world.
Yes.
So I think in sports, we are just going to grow, and this is a temporary phase.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
quite
Satya.
encouraging. Oh, thank you, Anjali. Thank you.
I'll be getting in touch with you separately.
Sure.
Isn't it become too long? I think
yeah,
it's like a 3-hour movie.
Yes, my battery was almost running out, so that's why I was desperate to ask this.
Fantastic.
Arunava?
Srunava, I think you are muted.
Unmute.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah, just saw that. Anjali, you want to finish or you want to take in a last question?
One last question because it's a girl. Livana, last question. Absolutely last question.
All right, Livana, please go ahead.
Hi, guys. So we spanned a couple of topics today, and my question kind of bands that together. We've spoken about, and the crux of it, the base of it being women's development. So we've spoken about the FIFA World Cup. Sukhi brought up Yuva as well, women's development, coaches, employability, markets, post-COVID. So my question is just ties into all of that. I think one of the major challenges that we face with community development with women, especially in the tribal regions in the economically underdeveloped sectors, is changing the mindset, the stigma, the taboo behind it, changing their parents' mentalities. Now we're faced with the time, especially where all of this process that we've worked on, all of the efforts that have been taken to include so many girls just to play the game has been completely reversed. I feel the FIFA legacy programs also, even though they talk about getting to millions of girls in the double digits to be involved in the game, only skim the surface. But is there a way that we can push the envelope here? Is there a way that we can make these legacy programs, these CSR budgets that foundations take on to delve deeper into these communities, into these tribal regions, to not just get the girls involved and engaged for a week, but to actually use them into, like how Sukhi mentioned, how Arnava mentioned, player pathways that then develop into national pathways for those same players. Is there a way we can band together? Is there a way we can really, really make a change for women's football?
Livana, very, very good and a very, very valid point that you've raised in the end. From my understanding, if you look at how FIFA comes into a market and organizes its competitions, FIFA's approach is to open a door. Now, the national federation, the state bodies, the district associations, the city, the panchayats, the talukas, wherever you are, they have to then take it forward. Because FIFA has to deal with 211 countries and territories around the world. And one has to always remember that a lot of the things that have happened in Indian football over the last 10, 15 years would have not been possible without the support of FIFA. Because the reality is that even the Under-17 Boys World Cup was something which within FIFA, 99% of people did not want. Mr. Blatter ensured that India got it, even though it was one of the last things he ensured. So we in India need to grasp that opportunity which it is and then take it forward. Even Mission 11 Million, which was done before the men's Under-17 World Cup, a great program to start off. But then, the states, the state associations have to take over from that point.
Arnava, can I jump in there? Can I jump in there?
Please.
I think I was more over focused upon our post-COVID-19 efforts, meaning that is this dialogue now surfacing with regional organizations, with NSOs, with DSOs? Is it a new approach being talked about? Are they dealing with this differently? Because more than ever now, I think in villages, if the bread earner has not been able to sufficiently provide food and basic amenities to his family, how are they gonna let their girl child be involved in a sport when it's not even bringing any money to their home?
So Arunava, can I answer that? Arunava?
Sure.
Okay, Livana, basically this is exactly what I said when someone questioned me, what are the efforts being done right now? Currently, whoever are our community players, their focus right now is on survival. because their parents are daily wage earners and there's no food to eat. So right now, there isn't any talk being about what's going to happen after COVID because of the nature of the pandemic in Mumbai. You know how crazy it is currently, you know the numbers in Mumbai. And currently to talk, even talk to these people about what about your football program after the pandemic is actually a little foolish, because right now everyone is actually focused on survival. So, you know, the thing is, what we are doing as an organization are trying to keep in touch with the girls. Some of them who have smartphones, we talk to them, try and engage them in trivia, in fun stuff for them to forget about what is going on around them. See, these are girls who are living in very congested slum areas, and they are seeing deaths at very close hands, and you know, they are getting affected naturally because they're also not playing and not out on the field. So currently what we are dealing with is making sure that these girls have their rations and their families have their food to eat at this point. And if anyone needs some medical assistance, we are trying to help in that field.
Right.
We at a DSO or a state level, nothing has been really talked. Oh, you know, I'm also a part of a lot of NGO groups, but there is no such talk right now about anything about what's going to happen post-COVID. Right now, the talk is still only about survival, ensuring that people in these marginalized communities are getting rations, they're getting medical aid, they're getting testing if needed, and you know, ambulances and basic amenities like this. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Levana, if I take it back to the bigger level, the reality is that big football clubs, the leagues, even FIFA and UEFA, everyone is restarting football because there is a need to restart football from a financial perspective. So the problem is there is a fight for survival at the bottom of society which is there, but there is also a fight for survival for not only football but for sports in general. If I tell you, I know that there are 4 or 5 Bundesliga clubs, and Bundesliga is the most sustainable league in the world, that there are big clubs who are fighting. A club like Schalke 04 is fighting for survival, a club with a turnover of 250 million euros. So the reality is, it's actually the survival of the sports. In America, they're saying the same thing. The NBA, the NHL, the NFL, everyone needs to restart the league so that the sports survive. Because without these entities surviving, you know, that pyramid and you know, things falling down at the bottom, that you're able to survive. If the men's game doesn't survive, the women's game will suffer even more.
Yeah.
That's another problem. Because before the big clubs decide to shut down the men's team, for them, the women's team is an expenditure. So there's a lot of interlinked things that needs to be looked at. That, and the problem is everyone is trying to get through this COVID thing. The problem is we are all reacting. A lot of people aren't acting at the moment. And that is, I think, the biggest drawback in this COVID situation, where there is no end date to it. I hope, I've heard a lot saying, you know, we'll have a vaccine hopefully in 6 months, in 12 months. You know, in Germany, discussion at the moment is, what do we do if we don't get a vaccine? And the HIV virus, for example, for AIDS is a prime example. There is no vaccine till date. So, sorry, I don't want to end on that bad note, but, you know, to give a real picture of where we stand, I think as much as we love this game and we're passionate about it, so therefore I'm saying,
I'd like to enter into this. Arunava,
sure.
See, what is happening over here is that we're talking post-COVID, and post-COVID, there are no plans from the Federation, there's no plans from anywhere. But what we are looking at is the Under-17 World Cup, which is going to be a catalyst for women's football. That in mind. And this is going to be very interesting and heartening to know, Levana, that there is a lot of promise over here, because we're talking about entering into states, and states to enter into districts. And for districts, we want the stakeholders as a government, which is the biggest stakeholder to come inside, the DSO and the Football Association. Which, if it is in Maharashtra, the WIFA, the DSO, the government, the university, all will pool in to bring in funding to create an opportunity to create those under 13, 15 and 18 leagues which will be rampant in most of the districts, and it is going to be implemented well and with the monitoring of FIFA, because FIFA is talking about not less than 5 years. They want the government to really implement and support fundingly also. And the other day, which we were discussing with Roma and the entire LOC, which we discussed, and they mentioned that yes, we are going to have this program, and it is going to start maybe November, December. Forget about talking about making a career into it so soon, talking about money, making money into it. But I'm sure that out of this enthusiasm of reaching out to a girl child to give them the opportunity to play football, there would be some talent hidden somewhere. There would be some girls who would really take the opportunity to come out to become national team players or state players, where then the career might be put in place, because IWL, we're talking about 1% or 2% of clubs paying money, but the rest of them coming as community, or they don't even have their own monies to spend about it, because we know that men's football is evolved over in India more than women's football, and that's the reason why we don't have to be very rigid saying that nothing is going to happen, we cannot predict. But there is a plan. Here there is a plan, and we hope that like the under 17 World Cup for men's, India changed the entire thing in youth football. I think the women's football also will get its due, because in 2023 we're going to have the AFC Women's Championship here in India. That's the next big event that's coming in. And keeping that in mind, the under 17 would move into 19 years old or 20 years old and could be a part of the national team. And that's the pathway that the under 17 World Cup would see in the near future. The legacy program would be there. So 22, 21 would be the under 17 World Cup, 23 would be the AFC Women's Champion, 25 would be another big event. So we have got a pathway for women's. We have got a hope for women's. We don't know how and when, but we have to be promising in saying that there is a positive vibrancy in the system. I hope I have answered that.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent, Henry. I think there's nothing much more to add to that. We planned for 2 hours, Anjali, I think, and we've done more than 3, so we've covered extra time and penalties as well. Thank you very much to the panelists. Thank you to Henry. Thank you to Sukhi, to Kishore, to Neel, and as well Anjali. Thank you for allowing us this platform. And I hope that we can continue this conversation. It's a never-ending conversation. There's a lot of things to cover, and yeah. And I thank you all of being part of it. And I hope to see you all soon. Stay safe, and let's keep all the passion for football. Thank you and bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Kishore. Thank you, Arunava.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Safe,
Sukhi.
guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Keep fit. Keep fit.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Stay safe.
Yeah, be
Neil,
positive.
Neil, thank you,
positive.
Neil. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Neel.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Henry. Thank you,
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.